I can't get to my board, my page again. My word. This was the moving the system at the airport.
I call to order the regular meeting of the Mount Pleasant City Commission, Monday, September 22nd, 2025 at 7 p.m. Please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Mount Pleasant City Commission recognizes the Anishinaabe, whose ancestral lands the city stands upon today. We acknowledge the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe and recognize that the three bands of Ojibwe, Saginaw, Black River, and Swan Creek, have resided on this land for over 200 years. Our acknowledgement of the full history of the tribe and our commitment to be good stewards of these ancestral lands is an expression of gratitude and appreciation to those ancestors who came before us. We give thanks to the generous care with which the Anishinaabe and those members of the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe of Michigan have given and continue to give to this land and our community. Clerk Schmelzer, please take the roll.
Commissioner Alsager,
Here.
Commissioner Bush,
Here.
Commissioner Perschebacker,
Here.
Commissioner Rollins,
Here.
Commissioner Skeletsky,
Here.
Vice Mayor Eke,
Here.
Mayor Wingard.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. That brings us into proclamations and presentations for this evening. First item we have is a proclamation recognizing Bowlers Hall of Fame Day, presented to Jerry Fountain. If you want to step up to the podium and join me, please. Did we have them here as well?
Yes.
If a Sarah Cuthbertson, Bruce Canute, Craig Strander, and Jimmy McLean want to stand.
No, none.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry. None.
oh, okay, gotcha.
No, no.
Yeah, no. In that case, whereas the Mount Pleasant Bowlers Hall of Fame was created in 1984 to honor those persons, bowlers, proprietors, and sponsors who have contributed to the game of bowling. And whereas candidates for this honor may be bowlers, proprietors, or sponsors, and have been a member of either the Mount Pleasant Women's Bowling Association, the Mount Pleasant Men's Bowling Association, or the Mount Pleasant USBC, and have individually performed through bowling ability, promotion, or other outstanding act for 15 years or more. And whereas selections for induction into the Hall of Fame are made on the basis of character, sportsmanship, personality, leadership, dedication, and achievement. Now, therefore, I, Boomer Wingard, Mayor of the City of Mount Pleasant, do hereby proclaim October 5th, 2025 as Bowlers Hall of Fame Day in Mount Pleasant and extend congratulations to the newest members of the Mount Pleasant Bowlers Hall of Fame, Sarah Cuthbertson, Bruce Canute, Craig Strantner, thank you, and Jimmy McLean. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand in the Great Seal of the City of Mount Pleasant, Michigan, this 22nd day of September, 2025.
Thank you. The banquet's on October 5th. The banquet's on October 5th, if anybody's interested in coming. It's at the Lincoln Reception Center. We try to get 4 people each year based on the nominations we have and the merit of each person. And it'll be this year. I got 2 tickets here if you would like to come, or anybody else. that you would like to give them to, we'd be more than happy to have you read the proclamation at the banquet.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
And I'll take this with me.
Yeah, if you want to keep that. and
Okay.
everything there.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the introduction and swearing in of full-time firefighter Adam O'Farrell by Chief Doug Lobsinger.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. What we're going to do is we're going to swear both of these in at the same time. I'll introduce them, tell you a little bit about them. They're our newest firefighters that we've hired. They're in their field training officer training period right now, but we're happy to have them here and excited to what they're going to bring for us. But this is Adam O'Farrell. Adam has been a firefighter at Shepherd for a few years. He's been a paramedic supervisor for mobile medical response for a number of years. So we're excited to get him started. Rachel Humphrey has been a Surrey fireman for a number of years, 4 years now, and she is our newest. And she just started. This is our first 24-hour shift tonight. She is also our first full-time female firefighter. So we're excited for that. We have high hopes for her and for both of them, and we're just excited. But I will swear them in at this time. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name, do solemnly swear
I, Rachel Humphrey, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the laws of the state of Michigan,
the laws of the state of Michigan,
and the ordinances of the city of Mount Pleasant.
and the ordinances of the city of Mount Pleasant.
And I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of firefighter
Faithfully discharge the duties of the office of firefighters
to the best of my abilities.
to the best of my abilities.
Thank you and welcome. If you'd like to say hi to the folks in there.
I'd just like to say thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to serving the population of Mount Pleasant.
Adam stole all of my words. I also would just like to say thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm excited to serve this community and show my three littles over there that it's okay to work hard and do extraordinary things. So.
Okay, that'll bring us to item number 4. Introduction of Street Maintenance Specialist 1, Tyler Tupper by Director of Public Works, Jason Moore.
Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight, I'm glad to introduce our newest member to our street maintenance specialist team, Tyler Tupper. He started with us Monday on September 8th. He comes to us from the pipeline and construction industry. And Tyler also served as in the U.S. Army. We're glad to have Tyler on board and contributing to the success of our team. Please join me in welcoming our new employee to our staff and wishing him much success.
Does I have to say anything? Okay. Nice to meet everyone. Thank you. Okay. That brings us to item number 5 on the agenda, presentation on proposed fiscal year 2026 operating budget.
All right, good evening, everyone. So this presentation is going to be tag teamed by myself and our finance director, Lauren Pavlowski. First up, I wanted to start up with a discussion on 2026 goals and objectives. So just as soon as, there we go, just as soon as we start projecting up there, I will begin. So setting up our 2026 proposed operating budget, I wanted to talk about goals and objectives that we had for 2026. Last time we talked about this was fairly early in the year. City Commission just wanted to see some details on the tactics, measures, anticipated completion timeline, and also responsibilities, usual things that we put into this tracking document for our goals and objectives. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. Our first up, our goal, infrastructure, facilities, environmental sustainability. We have proactively plan and implement infrastructure upgrades and pursue grants to support capital improvements projects. Tactics for this item will be the DWSRF Phase 1 construction and Franklin Street reconstruction slated for 2026. Measure will be whether or not the projects were completed within that year. We anticipate this will be completed by the end of 26. Next up is implement the transition to cellular read water meters to improve efficiency and service. Staff will continue to work with HydroCorp to schedule residential 5/8 and 1-inch meters, as well as in-house replacements of larger meters. We'll measure this with the number of meters that are exchanged for remote read meters in 2026, and we'll have reports due at the end of that year. Next up is explore redevelopment or other opportunities for the former Mount Pleasant Center property. Tactics will be to hold a work session to discuss possible opportunities for the property, identify the most advantageous opportunity, and then implement the most advantageous opportunity. Measurement will be, was the tactic completed? Was the city able to execute on an advantageous opportunity? We figure this will take through the end of 2026. Next up is assess appropriate zoning of vacant land at Broomfield and Crawford Roads. We will do this by conducting a joint meeting with the City Commission, Planning Commission, and property owners to establish future zoning. Measure will be the change from PRD to an agreed to zoning. We anticipate this will be done by early next year. Next, promote environmental awareness and stewardship, particularly around the Chippewa River. 2 tactics related to this: implement the goals and objectives in the city's climate change resiliency plan and designate the Chippewa River as an official water trail. Measures for this will be the number of goals completed from that plan, as well as receiving the designation of an official water trail. Next is advance the food waste project and seek funding for combined heat and power or biogas reuse at the Water Resource Recovery Facility. We'll do this by developing a conceptual plan and estimate in order to apply for grants for the combined heat and power, and then also measurement of completedness will be the construction of food waste receiving station by the end of Q3 2026. Lastly, under this set of goals, address the remaining service life expectancy of AC water mains. Staff is going to create an RFP for the project to take sampling from a representative set of various ages of AC pipe. We'll do this to determine the condition and quality of those pipes based on that sample size. We'll have some data to at least make better informed decisions as to where we may want replacements, how much replacement is in the system, those kind of things. We anticipate that this will be completed by the end of Q3 next year. Next up, community development and housing. Advance revitalization initiatives along Mission Street with a focus on redevelopment, transportation, and accessibility. Tactics for this will be implement the goals and objectives in the Mission Street Corridor Improvement Plan. Measure will be the number of goals implemented within this plan. We'll have a report due at the end of the year in 26. Next is investigate strategies to develop more missing middle housing to meet the needs of moderate income households. Tactics for this will be look for new opportunities to attract housing developers, including the use incentives and grant programs. Measure will be the number of new housing units started, and we anticipate we will look at this all throughout 2026. Next up, increase focus on enforcing the International Property Maintenance Code to maintain safe and appealing neighborhoods. We have a number of tactics and measurements related to this, including conduct proactive inspections of neighborhoods, increase collaboration with residents through education about property maintenance standards, and implement a system follow-up process or systemic follow-up process for violations to ensure timely compliance. Measures for 2026 will include the number of inspections conducted per quarter, percentage of identified violations brought into compliance within a set time frame. For example, those that were given 30-day notice versus 60-day notice, and a reduction in repeat violations at the same properties year over year. And we'll have reporting at the end of 2026. Economic vitality and business support. Improve access to economic development initiatives, grant programs, and permitting processes. A number of tactics and measures again, including implement incentive programs as identified in the 2025 Economic Development Plan and associated TIFFA plans, develop tools on the city's website for applicants to easily access and understand, and develop a feedback mechanism to understand if the tactic is working. Measures will be the number of incentives sought after, number of new development and added value, positive or negative feedback identified in the tools being online, and then addressing any sort of negative feedback. Lastly, under this goal, explore opportunities for strategic partnerships and investments in underutilized or high potential areas of the city. Tactic will be to identify underutilized high potential areas and market them in combination with incentives that would be considered for development. Measures for this will be the number of properties identified and the number of properties developed, and we'll have reporting at the end of 2026. Public safety and emergency services implement key recommendations from the CPSM fire study to enhance fire department operations. This includes improve firefighter training and professional development, enhance operational capacity and staffing efficiency, address apparatus, equipment, and facility needs, strengthen community risk and reduction and emergency preparedness, promote health, safety, and wellness personnel, establish clear organizational direction and performance accountability. Measurements include percent of staff completing required competencies annually, number of personnel attending local and state training, a reduction in overall average response times, number of paid on-call and part-time staff retained annually, number of apparatus, equipment replaced or refurbished within life cycle standards, annual fleet readiness rating and reduction in apparatus, number of public educational contacts annually, reduction in repeat code violations, number of staff participating in annual health and fitness evaluations, reduction in on-duty injuries, and quarterly performance reports delivered on time. And then lastly, improvements in NFPA 1720 compliance benchmarks. We'll have a report by the end of the year. You'll notice that this is the one goal that we mark for the end of Q4 2030, and that's because the plan that we had developed was a 6-year plan taking us to the end of that year. Expand community-oriented police programs in collaboration with local partners. This will be done by officer-initiated public relations stops at area businesses, schools, and other organizations. Measurement will be the number of documented visits by officers throughout the year, and we'll have reporting at the end of the year. Identify and develop future leaders with the police department through leadership training and succession planning. Implement a structured leadership development program that includes mentorship, supervisory training, and rotational assignments to prepare staff for higher level responsibilities. This will be measured by the number of officers completing leadership training annually, pre- and post-training evaluations to measure growth in leadership competencies. Our next goal, civic engagement and good governance. Support the successful implementation of early voting to ensure accessibility and compliance with state law. Tactic will be to align goals and objectives with Union Township and our combined early voting agreement. Measurement will be to track early voting statistics and participation. Enhance promotion of various city programs to increase public awareness and participation. We'll share targeted story-driven social media content through photos, videos, and behind-the-scenes highlights to promote programs while beginning to track analytics to guide content decisions. Measure will be tracking social media reach and engagements across all city accounts, along with program participation. Last set of goals will be organizational excellence and talent development. First is attract and retain high-quality candidates through competitive hiring practices and professional development. We'll use competitive recruitment practices and continuous professional development to attract and retain top talent. We'll measure this by monitoring quality of hire, retention of high performers, internal promotion rates, and employee development participation. Next, invest in mentoring and staff development to prepare current employees for future leadership roles. We'll establish a mentor and leadership development pipeline through formal mentoring pairings, structured training, and succession planning. Measure will be to track participation, competency growth, promotion, retention rates, and leader role readiness. Lastly, foster a supportive and engaging work environment by strengthening organizational culture, recognizing employee contributions, and offering competitive benefits and career growth opportunities. We'll identify weaknesses based on feedback from our workplace environment survey, consider further investigation if further surveying is needed, and create interventions to address concerns and gaps in performance. Measure will be the interventions created to address these concerns and gaps. Future surveying to be completed after 2 years to measure if these interventions were successful. That concludes our goals and objectives for 2026. Does the City Commission have any questions?
Vice Mayor Eke.
I feel like applauding you right now before we even start. This
Thank
is robust. Okay, this is robust, and I am looking forward to you accomplishing all of this, right? Okay, so just before we begin, what might you anticipate as challenges for you?
Interesting.
That's my favorite question.
Yeah. One of the hard things that I feel like we're going through lately is just trying to navigate, let's call them dynamic times right now. A lot of change, a lot of uncertainty. And so that's some of the issues that I think just broad-based I would see across the organization. We certainly don't know what we don't know. And when you're municipal government, a lot of what you do is also based on your external partners being ready, willing, prepared. And so I think that's probably one of the harder parts is just anticipating some of those things. So for instance, complications in other layers of government can certainly find their way our way, and that can cause some issues with our organization. So trying to navigate those waters, that would be the number one challenge that we have.
Okay. I want to say that I like quite a lot of them.
Mhm.
I really do. I also applaud you for including the last one,
Mhm.
which says to me that you were paying attention
Mhm.
to the survey. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I like the idea of mentoring and staff development. I do think that is necessary, especially because if we bear in mind, the exodus of, existing staff. So I applaud you and I will support you and
Thank you.
hope that you will achieve 99.5% of this. Okay.
Well,
Okay,
thank-
that's being ambitious, but that you will achieve as much of this as you plan.
Yeah, we certainly hope so, and hats off to the folks that had worked on this, all the responsible parties that you saw as we were going through this, senior management team, our director of planning, community development, parks, recreation, public spaces, all of those folks had a hand in developing these goals and objectives and then taking that direction and then plugging it into their department requests for budgets this year. So very much a team effort, but thank you.
That's good. I like the collaboration. Good job.
Thank you. Other members of the commission with questions on goals and objectives at this time?
I do have a question. How many of these goals are going to be reliant on state grants in order to complete? Given the circumstances of what's going on with our state budget, it's just one of those things I'm concerned about having a project partially completed, then found dead in the water if we're unable to acquire the funds necessary to complete them.
Yeah, just running through these, especially on infrastructure, DWSRF is federally backed, but run through the state. So that takes partnerships that way. Same with our identification of grants related to the WRF food waste project and combined heat and power. That project would be reliant on external funding. For 2026, I would say, our AC water mains, that project itself, the investigation and collection of data is not going to be, but that's going to be a very high dollar figure once we get into replacing a number of those different lines. So very likely to utilize external funding sources into the future. Incentives are things that we can do locally, but certainly when it comes to grants, upfront cash for developments, those kind of things, that is something that we partner with the state on. So that could be a hindrance on those kind of goals. And that then translates to also business support as well. As far as public safety, nothing that we have identified there. Yeah, I think from there, it's mostly our infrastructure related projects.
And that's where my concern lies,
Yep.
particularly with some of our, the projects towards the water treatment facility and testing our water specifically.
Yep.
So, thank you.
Okay, last one. No one else has questions.
Any other commissioners interested in asking questions? You can keep it short so we can
Yeah,
keep to the rest of the
So,
presentation.
the food waste collection, is this the piece that you're working in collaboration with CMU?
Yeah, partially. We are still
Okay.
working with Central Michigan University on that. If you want particulars, I do know Director Moore's here. He's closer to the project if you had some particular
No,
questions.
I'll find out later on. I
Okay.
just wanted to confirm that's the one.
Okay,
Thank you.
With that, hand it
fantastic.
back to you.
Thank you very much. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Director Pawlowski, and she is going to run through the 2026 proposed operating budget.
Good evening, everybody. I do have the presentation for the 2026 operating budget. I did provide a draft about 2 weeks ago in the City Commission. That draft is still being worked on. I have slightly changed up the process related to the budget a little bit from prior years. So I am going more on the draft side of things before presenting to you. I should have a more finalized draft to you sometime this week as well. So I'm working through that right now to get some things tightened up. Related to this is the presentation for the 2026 operating budget. Some challenges and considerations for the 2026 budgets that I encountered, I would like to point out. One is the peak and recreation funding and programs as they rely on outside funding through our general fund and through the tribal 2%, which is not a guarantee. And there are some other outside fundings that can support this. So just to keep that on your radar for when we talk later on about that fund. I also wanted to point out the storm sewer fund that has $500,000 being allocated for it. These projects cannot happen without major and local street funding. So right now we do have a significant amount in that fund, and I'd like to talk about some opportunities that we might have related to that fund and our major and local street projects. Another challenge or consideration that I had was related to our self-insurance funding. It was negative at the end of 2024, and I did bring through a deficit correction plan. And we do having, and the reason for that was because of the increased expenses that we had. And I want to address that before we get too far into the next couple of years here to try to keep that fund healthy and see what other options we have. Another challenge or consideration that I had was related to our water and our wastewater rate increases over recent years that have been completed by increasing the demand rate, which impacts everybody throughout with their usage, or impacts everybody who connects to our city water and wastewater. But it doesn't impact the consumption side of things. So I do want to look at a full rate study to see what we can do to ensure that our capital projects, as well as any operating support that we need for those two funds, is properly taken care of in the future. And then also I wanted to point out that we do have a potential renewal and capture of the TIFFA side of things, and that will affect the 2026 budget. When we look at the general fund, I do want to note that we did have an amendment go through for our 2025 budget, and the ending balances for that do not necessarily represent exactly what I have shown for the 2026 starting balances due to a reconciliation that I've done since that point in time. So I have gone through and double checked some numbers and found some projects that were not earmarked and assigned for our funding. And I have since gone through and assigned those on our financial side of things. So that's why when you're looking at this and comparing it to the 2025 amended budget, you might see a little bit of a difference in the starting fund balances. For this year, for the 2026 year, our unassigned fund balance starts at approximately 7.3 million and a total general fund balance of 16.5 million. The proposed 2026 unassigned ending balance will be 6.9 million, while the total general fund balance will be 15.4 million. The ending unassigned balance of the 6.9 million is going to be approximately 34% of the total proposed expenditures for the 2026 year. And that's higher than what best practices recommend of about 15 to 25%. So our general fund revenues for the proposed budget totals 19.3 million. The largest source of the revenue is the property taxes at about 46% or 8.8 million, and followed by intergovernmental revenues, which is federal and state grants and similar payments for 5.4 million, which is about 30% of our revenues. The general fund revenue, we did have the same millage rate of the 16.25 mils. I did assume a 2% increase in taxable value for that amount. We do have the marijuana tax and licensing fees. I anticipated those to be similar as what we planned for the 2025 year. And I did not increase those due to the lack of the decline in the demand and the pricing. And also, we do have our state share revenue that is calculated for the 2026 year based on the state projections that they provided. And this is just a graph over the last 5 years to show where our 16.2 mils is, and we have the operating millage versus the other millage. So this kind of just gives you a visual representation that we've been pretty consistent year over year on where our funding is coming from related to that. We do have 12.11 mils for operating. We have the just over 2 mils for fire and police pension. We have 1.5 mils for capital project and the 0.5 mils for the storm sewers. Our general fund expenditures, we're looking at having about 20.4 million in the expenditures. 51% of that is related to the compensation. The next largest expense is the professional services at 28%. If you want to look at this by division, I do have that as well. The 5 different divisions throughout the city, we have the largest spend of our general fund is related to our public safety, which utilizes about 38%. Community services is following that at 35% due to some significant projects we have coming up with that. Then we also have our finance and legislative and public works departments. The general fund expenditures are basically on the status quo, supports the workforce model that we have right now. There wasn't too large of an increase between the 2025 year and the proposed 2026 year. A couple of the bigger changes relate to filling vacancies that have been open for some time, as well as new and updated contracts related to professional services. And we do have some large capital projects planned for 2026, such as the retaining wall that's right outside this building. The general fund balance at the end of the 2026 year will actually decrease by about 376,000 in the unassigned fund balance, leaving us with 6.9 million in that unassigned fund balance, which is 33.8% of our total budget. We do have some general fund that will be assigned. We will continue to put $200,000 of annual contribution into a fire truck reserve. So when it does come time to purchase some more fire trucks, we will have a little bit of a reserve built up for that. We are assigning $721,000 to the economic initiatives and approximately $780,000 to capital improvements. A few projects that are noted from the CIP that affect our general fund would be an alley reconstruction for $266,000. Of that, $133,000 is coming from the general fund. The other side is from the special assessments. We have our Chippewa Riverbank protection project for $610,000, downtown improvement project for $30,000, and quite a few others listed on there. I won't go through the list specifically, but they do tie out to our capital improvements plan from 2026 to 2031 that we approved earlier this year. Next, I'll talk about some of the special funds from the 2026 proposed budget. The special fund is the money that's set aside for specific purposes. This relates to like our major streets, local streets, downtown special assessment, opioid settlement, and sewer. Our major streets budget has an estimated beginning balance of 1.3 million and proposed ending balance of 1.2 million. We do have about $2.1 million worth of projects related to resurfacing and reconstruction of several major streets and including the sidewalk replacements for that. And I did list out the projects based on the CIP on this one as well. For local streets, we have a beginning balance of 1.1 million and an ending balance of 771,000. We didn't have any specific projects in there. However, normal activities such as planning and prepping for the projects will happen for the 2027 year. This will kind of get us there, as well as supporting some of those major projects that we have. The downtown special assessment has an estimated beginning balance of 159,000 and an ending balance of 135,000. We didn't have any projects related to this in our CIP. So the proposed expenses in there are typical expenses to run that program. We do have our opioid settlement fund that we have. The beginning balance is starting at 41,000 and the proposed ending balance is about 51,000 based on the amounts that we've been receiving over prior years. We did have a prior work session to discuss some potential projects being considered for that, and we're still determining those projects at this time. The storm sewer fund has an estimated beginning balance of 491,000 and a proposed ending balance of 596,000. The CIP noted the project for the storm collection system improvement for 179,000. For budgeting purposes, is put in at 159,000. The projects that typically use this fund don't normally occur without major or local streets also having projects as well. I noted this fund as a consideration and would like to have further conversations on what advantages could be had from incorporating this into the major and local streets funds. Next, we have the component unit budget. The component unit part of this is related to some of our funds such as the DDA, the TIFFA, the and Brownfield. Even though these are independent organizations, their finances do run through the cities. That's why we have the budgets included tightly with the cities. For the three of these, I just have the amounts for the budget. We have this for the DDA, we start with an estimated 1.9 million and a proposed ending of 21.9 million. For the TIFFA and CBD, this one, because we do have that conversation about the proposed TIFFA, this one could change when we do the amendments for the 2026 year, but I do have it starting at 160,000 and ends about the same. And for the Brownfield redevelopment, this one has a beginning balance of 95.9 million and a proposed ending balance of 96.2 million. Now we're going to look into the enterprise funds. And for this, we have recreation, land redevelopment, airport, WRF, water, and solid waste. So for the recreation budget, this has an estimated beginning fund balance of 235,000 and a proposed ending balance of a negative 235,000. The CIP projects that were noted for the recreation budget typically fall within the general fund, so they're not captured under the recreation fund itself. This fund does include our PEAK program. Currently, this program relies heavily on receiving the tribal 2% grant annually, which is not accounted for in this budget for the 2026 year, as it is not a guarantee that we will get that funding. Like the storm sewer funding, I did note that this was a consideration and would like to have further conversation on fee schedules and reliance on the outside funding for these programs. For the land redevelopment fund, there is an estimated beginning balance of 5.6 million and a proposed ending balance of 5.7 million, which most of this balance relates to the owned asset of the Mount Pleasant Center property. And currently there are no projects listed for this one. Next, we have the airport. The fund estimated balances starts at 849,000 and a proposed ending balance of 738,000. The CIP notes a runway 927 rehabilitation project for 160,000 and snow removal equipment of 11.5 thousand. These amounts are the local share of these projects and are mainly funded through state and federal programs, with a total cost estimated of 3.2 million and 253,000 respectively. We've already had these grants. It's just a matter of finalizing the programs and getting everything set up. The federal grant covers 90%, while the state grant covers 5%, and then local comes in with another 5%. Which this one was secured through the tribal 2% or potentially general fund. The 2026 budget for the Water Resource Recovery Facility, or WRF, has an estimated beginning balance of 12.4 million and an ending balance of 11.6 million, and has several CIP programs for the year. This fund is significantly high in comparison to some of the other ones due to the infrastructure improvements we've been working on that are anticipated with the completion date at the end of this year or early in 2026 for the phase 2 and phase 1 programs. And once we get some of that program closed out, we will see a reduction in that, because right now we have our capital capital improvement in process out there, and that's what's having that balance remain so high. Next, we have our water budget, which is an estimated beginning balance of 284,000 and a proposed ending balance of 17,000, with the CIP projects of the chemical feed replacement, distribution system replacement, meter replacement, and source water rehabilitation. We do also have our phase 1 confirmed for the water improvement side of things. So some of these could be captured within that. And we also have phase 2 that is a potential and could be looked into as well. Our solid waste budget for 2026 has a beginning balance of 673,000 and a proposed ending balance of 497,000. And there's no CIPs with it, no CIP project with this. And I did want to note in 2025, it was our first year of contracted pickup for solid waste. So that does impact that we're not directly operating that anymore. And we do still have the continued no-fee brush pickup twice a year. And I did also note the phase 1 application was successful, phase 2 application is being considered. So just some things in 2025 that will impact our 2026 budget. The last group of funds that I have is our internal service funds. We have our motor pool budget, which starts with a beginning balance of 1.8 million and proposed ending balance of 1.6 million. And this all relates to services provided within the city for the city. So using the vehicles that we have in other departments. And then we also have our self-insurance budget, which is estimated at 15,000 to start the year and a proposed ending balance of 108,000. Like the storm sewer fund and recreation fund, I noted this as one that I would like to have further conversation on how to sustain this fund and considering the significant increases we've seen in expenditures year over year. I did want to note in the proposed budget that I provided, we do have water increasing, our water rates are increasing by 9% for the demand charges to cover the cost of the new upgrade that phase 1 of that upgrade. And the wastewater sewer increases by 3% for the demand side to ensure that we are covering our operational charges as well as any continued capital improvements that are needed. I do plan to do a rate study for both in 2026 to be included with the 2027 budget to ensure that we are making sure that we are keeping rates competitive for our residents, but also making sure we get the funding we need to continue to provide the services we have. A few unresolved issues and unknowns that I have related to the budget is the TIFFA capture and the budget effects, as well as that self-insurance fund and what's going to happen with the expenses related to our self-insurance fund. I did note out a few work sessions that I would be interested in the commission considering. We would have the storm sewer fund being combined with major and local streets to ensure that we can move forward with some of the projects that are standing out there, but also making sure that our storm sewer is up to date. Our park fund and the sustainability with the peak program and other activities for the community. The self-insurance fund and ensuring the affordability and adequate coverage for the employee health insurance. And also making sure we assign some of that additional unassigned fund balance to come down more into the best practice module between the 15 and 25%. So some of the next steps that we have is I do have a work session already planned for October 13th that will address some of the city commissioner questions that they have. There is also a public hearing scheduled for November 10th related to the 2026 budget. And the budget needs to be adopted by the last meeting of the year. Any questions?
Real quick, if you could put the last slide back up so we have that reference there.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, so just questions from the members of the commission on the presentation that we received this evening, keeping in mind that, again, we're going to have our follow-up work session on October 13th, so we don't need to have everything answered this evening, but questions, anything you'd like to bring to the attention of staff at this time?
The state revenue sharing proposal from the state that you were working with, there's some very distinct numbers in the different branches. What numbers are you working off of exactly?
The ones that I had for this were specific to the major and local streets. So the Act 51 side of things. I can definitely get you the information regarding that, but I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, that's fine.
Other members of the commission? Okay. Just a reminder, yep, so as part of that, so in preparation for the, well, it'd be the October 14th work session because we'll be,
Yes.
yep. So we'll be having our meeting on October 14th because we'll be closed on the 13th. But questions to the city manager concerning the budget. So we all have our budget packets. Please make sure you're reviewing those, compiling any questions that you might have, especially ones that might take more length or research to answer. And then get those to the city manager so those can be reviewed by staff in preparation for the work session so they can be addressed. Any other comments about the process there or any feedback that you'd need from us at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay, well, thank you for the excellent presentation. I appreciate it. Okay, that brings us to our final presentation this evening. We have a presentation on the Michigan Talent Grant by Director of Planning and Community Development, Manuela Paladico.
All right, so I'm here tonight to provide you with an update about a very exciting grant that we've heard about, and staff has been working on it for, I would say, the last month really, really hard, but since the summertime. The grant is called the Michigan Talent Partnership Program, and it was created by the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. The goal of it is to support communities in attracting and retaining talent. And they say the way to do that is through transformational placemaking projects. So the idea here is to develop vibrant, high-density neighborhoods with business opportunities for residents. So eligible applicants must be a coalition that must include the local government and may involve other partners as well. And they suggest business, supporting organizations, educational institutions, and developers as well. So eligible applicants must be would be involved in the state of Michigan. They have reserved around 17.4 million for 4 larger Michigan cities and set aside 6.79 million specifically to municipalities in the Upper Peninsula and Lower Peninsula that are smaller and also have a 4-year university. So the for us, that's what applies. And they have picked Houghton and Marquette in the Upper Peninsula to compete for the grant, and Mount Pleasant, Kalamazoo. If we are able to score, let's say, higher, we'll get it. If we score the same, maybe it's shared. So there are many opportunities. But what I wanted to highlight to all of you is the reason for us really spending a lot of time on this one is because we have a high chance, basically a 50% chance of getting the funding. So we talked a lot with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, the RC Communities staff team, and they really encouraged us to apply. So the application deadline is coming very soon. It's this Friday. We have a draft and we're just making pretty, putting a lot of pictures. Luckily we had the Friday event and got really good pictures from Central there. So the eligible activities, they include various expenditures such as planning and permitting, community engagement activities, redevelopment and utilization of housing commercial spaces, road repairs for walkability and green space access, site improvements like ADA access and streetscaping, and then also activities that support small businesses and entrepreneurs, enhancements to parks and green spaces, promotion of local art, outdoor social spaces, and activities that could include additional funding sources as well. So you can continue with the talent plan idea. So that leads us to the basics for this grant application. Usually grant applications are straightforward. We kind of say what project we're working on, we say why we need the funding, why the funding would basically meet the goals of the grant, and kind of leave it like that. For this one, they really required us to create a talent plan. And the talent plan would need to basically designate an area in Mount Pleasant that is very specific in the area where we see a lot of momentum happening. So area where we have the ability to meet those goals of the MTP, and then areas where we are seeing a lot of investment and resources coming in. So we also had to identify engaged stakeholders, additional local private funding that's coming in, and then include a timeline and a sustainability plan for us to carry forward the MTP goals. The plan must have clear goals, measurable outcomes, and demonstrate the likelihood of achieving the objectives, highlighting its comprehensiveness and strength to supporting the coalition and provide local support as well. So there were 6 criteria that they published that would include supporting local businesses, create dense and walkable spaces, again, supporting high-density mixed-income housing projects, and the increase of opportunities for arts and cultural activities. They wanted us to ensure that the plan goes beyond the projects that we are asking funding for, and that the plan is implementable as well in the future. So with all of that, we put up a consortium formed by the City of Mount Pleasant, local education institutions, business leaders, and local developers. And we named this project the Central Market and Main District. The tagline there is a food, entertainment, and innovation hub for local businesses and sustainable living in the heart of Michigan. So together, the coalition really wanted to share this vision of our region's ability to attract and retain local talent, recognizing that they are really the driving force behind economic growth, innovation, and community vitality. So this is the groundwork for us. So as I mentioned, we had to create a talent district, and we chose the area surrounding downtown Mount Pleasant to do so. Bounded by Central Michigan University on the south, Mission Street on the east, Pickard Street on the north, and Adams Street on the west, which is where we see a natural connection of the city's largest population of emerging talent and density, with a thriving hub for local business, cultural amenities, and public spaces. This district is already one of the most walkable, high amenity places in the region, making it an ideal foundation for transformational placemaking. And so we mapped the district's current assets that attract and support talent. And we also saw, kind of pointed out in the right side of this slide, what are the anchor amenities, such as our interconnected park system, the area's iconic neighborhoods, and key businesses and organizations such as Green Tree Co-op, Chamber of Commerce, and MMDC, who make this area really unique and prone to business and entrepreneurship. So zooming in on that bottom part of the map, city staff consulted with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation Redevelopment Ready Communities team, as I mentioned before, and they told us to go big. So we could ask for up to 6.79 million, and they encouraged us to do so. The reason being is if we go big, we can meet more goals of the MTP, and we're likely gonna just pop, a little bit more in the grant application. So we came up with 4 strategies: Lean Green, Farm Fresh, Grow Local, and Live Sustainably. So we see that the existing and future planned JQB Trail connections as the city's unique plan to offer high quality, non-motorized transportation. offering not only the option to move around without a car, but also to do that alongside nature. We think that's one of the main gems of the community, that you can, just walk all the parks and they're all interconnected. And we have a lot of plans for expansion that will eventually connect us to the regional trail system. So we wanted to highlight that in the application, especially because they focus a lot on non-motorized transportation. The second one is we heard from talent about their goals of achieving healthier lifestyles. Many times I go to Central, I hear that from students. We want places that are healthier to eat and different offerings that we currently don't have. So we believe that the success of our existing farmers market is great, and the food scene that we see here in downtown is also really varied and attracts a lot of talent and folks that come to visit the community. So if we're able to access these funds, the plan would also allow us to upgrade our current farmers market facility to allow it to function year-round and also offer a kitchen incubator space. So that's what we're proposing here. We also want to better support our young professionals who are reshaping the job market with flexible, purpose-driven careers and entrepreneur ventures that are full of innovation and social impact. So a new business incubator proposed by the Mid-Michigan Development Corporation and a food business program to provide resources to local entrepreneurs are two tools that we are offering as part of the grant request that would allow us to continue providing support to businesses and increase downtown Mount Pleasant area as a food scene. And then the fourth one, we know that especially after the pandemic, talent has been drawn to more sustainable living lifestyles. And many of them look for places where you have a lot of events and a lot of activity, local resource services, shops, and they really are attracted to fun. There is no other way to say it. So more housing options next to amenities and in our unique neighborhoods would help attract young professionals to the Mount Pleasant hub. And we also asked, therefore, MEDC to assist us with the long-term coming renovations for 200 East Broadway, which has been a priority site for a very long time and currently does not have housing. So we are also asking for a portion of the fund to go to that project. So I'm going to just quickly show some slides about the project. So we're requesting $3.5 million to assist with a brand new farmers market pavilion. I want to highlight the hard work here from our Parks and Recreation Director on precedent research and his experience going through some other farmers market and kitchen incubator spaces in the state. And Brian Kench, he has many talents as our building official and created all these drawings for us, showing how the farmers market could potentially look like with garage doors that you can pull down and be able to have the market year round, and the kitchen incubator space in the back. We also had to make this design flood resilient, so kudos for us to having to do that very quickly. Another request is what I mentioned, the MMDC's business incubator space. They have been planning for it for a very long time. So $360,000 would help them get there and create that business incubator space right on the second story of their current new home. And then $200,000 would help support kitchen facilities in the existing downtown inventory. For a while now, I have heard from food truck business owners wanting to open a small restaurant, maybe a pickup window kind of restaurant, and they don't have the means to be able to renovate existing spaces, oftentimes office kind of spaces in downtown Mount Pleasant. And so this pilot program would help us see if there is indeed a lot of appetite for adding more kitchen facilities in downtown, and then help subsidize the cost of it, because it's very expensive. A very small kitchen that I've been working on with another owner that would like to transition to a mom and pop shop is around $50,000, a very small one. So people need help out there. And then the last one is the 200 East Broadway project. So this is an overall $7 million project. The owner wants to remove that fake facade in front of the building, bring up the historic building facade again, and showcase that uniqueness of this anchor building here in downtown Mount Pleasant, and then renovate the commercial ground floor for commercial spaces and the second story for 14 new units. which can include a combination of studio apartments, two-bedroom apartments, and also loft apartments, which would be very exciting to see here. So that is a request for 2.7 million out of the $7 million project. So there are many match activities that we are able to claim for us to be competitive. This is another feature of this grant that was very different. So instead of each project that we're requesting funding for needing to come with at least half of a match from the local authority, we can actually claim projects that are happening in that location as match. And we started with 7 million and we are now at 19 million and counting. I received a lot of support letters and I wanted to say thank you very much for the whole community on sending those and letters committing to those expenses, going all the way from our new homeless shelter on 555 North Main to developers that are planning, and we're getting the plans approved at the Planning Commission. So all of that we could claim as match, and we're way above the minimum for scoring really high. So I'm very excited about that. So that really is what I wanted to showcase for all of you. And this is a picture from the Fire Up Fest that happened on Friday. And thanks for Central Michigan University for providing that to us. And we have a lot of pictures in our proposal. It's looking really good. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Commissioner
you're
Bush,
going to
yeah.
Commissioner.
Yeah,
Questions.
Commissioner Bush, question.
So you've got our hopes up, of course. I mean, because this is potentially huge. You can tell you're a little bit, yeah. Yeah. Can you sleep at night?
Not really. Mostly from a good perspective,
Yeah, right.
just having a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have ton more ideas to do placemaking downtown. So
Yeah.
hopefully we'll have enough grants to get us there.
Well, I love that this is connected like with CMU. With you said the boundary of the area that you're addressing. And I just kind of want to bring up an eyesore that comes up. Sorry, I use that word that comes up from time to time in discussion. Constituents ask us about it a lot too. And those are the vacant properties that are on Bellows Street, right across.
University.
Or is that University? Yeah, Bellows and University. Yeah. So I just think that I know there's restrictions in play in terms of what the building can be used for, what the building can be sold for, and that sort of thing. I'm just wondering if representatives who are considering this grant come to our town, look at, oh, CMU here, this is where the boundary is, and there's these properties here that I didn't see any mention of an idea with these properties. I just feel like that might be like a pretty drastic oversight that might lead us to some scrutiny.
Yeah, that is a very good comment. And I'm actually going to talk with the grant coordinator, see if we can add some language there. I did note during the grant application, my intention to flag to the MEDC team about our priority sites. So I've been actually working with the city manager on identifying priority sites, which include those two. And I've already talked with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, RC team, to include those two sites. I also talked to the property owners, they're on board. Okay. So we want to include that in the marketing, the free marketing tool that the state has for our priority redevelopment sites. But I don't think we mentioned specifically those sites. But I think if they are able to see that we do know of those high opportunity sites that are obsolete right now, and we are incorporating or including that as the immediate CRC priority sites, they know that we have a plan. We're just not letting it go. So I'll talk with her about adding some language there.
It's just right in front of where the entrance to Central Michigan is, the border. I mean, I just feel like they might end up there. It's the gateway, yeah. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Other members of the commission, questions? Not seeing any. Question for myself, and I believe the due date for this was the 26th. Is there anything from the commission that we could offer at this time for assistance?
Thank you. Yeah, I think just know your support and just keep thinking positively. If there's something very specific, I'll make sure that we reach out.
This is very exciting work. Thank you for everything you put into it. Thank you.
I think you can tell you have our support.
Thank you.
I am curious, what was the intention with the kitchen for the farmer's market?
Yeah, so the intention for the kitchen, we don't have a kitchen incubator in a radius of, I would say, maybe 30 miles. And yeah, if you want to come in, Phil has been thinking about this for a while. It's like on his wish list, so.
So it's actually twofold. So we have a lot of vendors that come through the farmers market that would love to have access to something like that. So we're looking at it as a way to help build our vendor usage, I guess, of our facilities and things like that. But we're also looking at it in this process to be able to have some people come in, be able to cook or whatever their product, and then hopefully be able to grow it into a business that moves into a storefront. And so that's kind of, we're using it twofold. One is to help promote the farmer's market itself, because if they have access to it, they could cook, and then there's storage in that facility as well for them to keep it there. It would be a rentable space. It's not like we would just provide everything for free, but it's still affordable. And then they would be able to sell it during the market, but also eventually they would be able to move and be able to sell it for a living. So
No, I like the idea. Like what I pictured was somebody coming in and teaching like students how to prepare healthy meals with food that was provided by the vendors at the farmers market, which I think is just brilliant.
that's definitely a concept that we've talked about. We've had a short amount of time to kind of delve through this. But it's something like, I don't know how many grants we've applied for so far for the farmers market pavilion, but it's been a couple over the 4 years I've been here. But this one, it's gotten me super excited. So hopefully we can get there, because I think it would be a huge benefit.
Events too.
Yeah, and events and everything too, because I mean, that's kind of endless on the things that you can provide at that point. So
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Okay. Not seeing any other questions at this time, we'll conclude the presentation. Thank you so much and good luck.
Thank you.
Let's see. Okay, that brings us into additions and deletions to the agenda. Are there any items on the agenda members of the commission would like removed or added? Not seeing any. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved. One second.
Motion by Commissioner Alsager to approve the agenda as presented, seconded by Vice Mayor Eke. All those in favor of approving the agenda, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Okay, at this time, we're going to move into public input on agenda items. If you are in the audience and would like to speak on any of the items listed on the agenda, please step up to the microphone, and please make sure you form a queue to keep things moving along. You'll be given 5 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record, as well as the item on which you're commenting. And then also, if you are online and through Zoom and would like to comment, please use the raised hand feature.
So just so you know, I don't need mine read anymore. I sent it into you. Thank you. Bree Mogenberg, Isabella County. I'll be speaking on your agenda item regarding the International City of Peace. First, I'd like to note that when I say this board, I'm not referring to individuals at any particular time or vote, but to the board as a body. It is not a secret that this is a left-sided liberal board. Nor is it a secret that this board seems to be spending unnecessary efforts, time, and resources on political proclamations that bring no actual benefit to the taxpayers of this city. In fact, I'm not even going to ask you to pass a resolution that condemns political violence and supports our First Amendment right to freedom of speech following the Charlie Kirk assassination. Not only can I imagine how it would possibly pain you, but also we can do without any of these. Instead, let's simply see the results of effective, constitutional, lawful policies and enforcement of such. Let's take this a step further for what this board is spending time on and consideration on. This city does not need to be proclaimed as a city of peace. And the city does not need to provide free tickets to undocumented immigrants with an Immigration Trust Act, which is in fact, by the way, a sanctuary city by definition, whether you use the word or not. The city needs to be a safe place for families and children. The city needs to find a method to resolve the many dangers of homelessness. The city needs to get the parks cleaned up and make them safe. The city needs to listen to the taxpayers, including the many businesses that may not be voters, but they do in fact pay thousands and thousands to have a business front in this city. So before you go any further with personal political pursuits and word salads like City of Peace discussion, you may find it motivational to table that unnecessary topic and redirect your efforts to the viewing of the photos that I had provided. If you did not get these photos, they should be sitting up there. These are photos from Mill Pond Park. I took them at 4:15 this afternoon. There are 2 active homeless living sites that are down there. There are multiple sharps that are down there. That is no place for families to be. That is no place for children to be. And these discussions are not taking place. The homelessness are not being addressed. So I politely ask you, stop running after personal interest, after peace by a piece of paper. Do your job and do it right by the people. To those that are listening, I hope they are not deceived by any words you say, like Peace and Trust Act. If it looks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. But if you've got a duck, don't take it down to Mill Pond Park because it might get sharped. Thank you.
And if you are here for public comment, please do queue up and cuts down on time in between.
Just from back there, about half the speakers that were using this mic, you can't understand anything, Manuela. I couldn't understand about half of what you said. It's just garbled. When you guys are speaking, please don't count this to my 5 minutes. This is a problem that's happened before. I don't know what the solution is. I could hear the gentleman from Farmers Market just perfectly well, but there's an issue with not being able to hear what's going on. So anyway, I'm Kathy Martin, and I want to talk about the master plan and the approval for the master plan. According to MCL section 125.3833, it states any significant changes that could affect the public must be taken back to its citizens for review and input before adapting these changes. Trying to find what the packets aren't even available to look at until just a couple of days before online, and it's not easy to find that. So I guess I don't really consider that taking it back to the public for comment. It needs to be taken back to the public just like it was when you were getting the input, when you were developing the master plan in the first place, not during a city commission meeting with a public hearing, because most people don't even know that this is going on and they're not giving input. Talk about somehow eventually acquiring a portion of property from homeowners on Pickett Street so it can be fashioned into the curb appeal that you are envisioning with landscaping, revising parking, etc. Shouldn't you speak to those owners before you start suggesting any plans for use? The master plan emphasizes preservation of neighborhoods, with each neighborhood having the autonomy to identify itself and to maintain its well-established character, architecture, and scale that defines its residential uniqueness. And that's what we've been trying to do, unless you want to change the characteristics to accommodate your vision, and then utilize rezoning to make portions bend to your will, your plan. Book 1 talks about mixed-use regional corridor future land use classifications, creating a CD6 regional corridor. Those are some significant changes, and they have not been taken back to the people that originally developed this master plan. So, and new CD4 amendments as well. These are significant changes, and they really need to be discussed with the public before they are put into, before you move to approve them Case closed.
All right. Is there anyone else in the public for comments at this time on agenda items? Not seeing anyone rushing up. Is there anyone on Zoom with raised hands? Any additional emails? At this time, I'm going to close public input on agenda items, and we will move into receipt of petitions and communications. Manager Dissents, if you would.
Receipt of petitions and communications includes the minutes of the Planning Commission from August, receipt of city manager evaluation packet, resignation of Laura Risenen from Zoning Board of Appeals, and email from Douglas Janes regarding sanctuary cities.
Okay. Okay, and that will bring us into our consent items for the evening. If you would, Manager Dissents.
Consent items this evening includes approval of the minutes from the regular meeting held September 8, 2025. Consider approval of Experimental Aircraft Association Chapter 907 lease renewal. Consider setting a public hearing for October 14, 2025 to allow for public input on an ordinance to renew and amend the Mount Pleasant, Michigan Mission Street Pickard Avenue District Development Plan and Tax Increment Financing Plan, ordinance number 720, adopted on November 26, 1990 as amended. Consider setting a public hearing for October 14, 2025 to allow for public input on the 2021 Fire Code updates, and consider approval of payrolls and warrants.
Okay. Are there any items in the consent agenda members of the commission would like to have removed and put into the regular agenda? Not seeing any. Is there any questions or discussion that would like to take place? In that case, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Eke to approve the consent agenda as presented, seconded by Commissioner Rollins. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Okay, that brings us into our public hearings for the evening. We have our first public hearing is public hearing on the proposed Fourth Amendment, the Plan Amendment, to the Mission Street Pickard Avenue District Development Plan and Tax Increment Finance Plan, the plan of the Mount Pleasant Downtown Development Authority, the DDA. Manager Dissents, if you'd like to tee us up before we begin the public hearing.
Absolutely. City Commission is asked to hold a public hearing this evening on the proposed amendment to the city's Mission Pickard DDA TIFFA plan. The proposed amendment keeps the current capture rate in place and adds the recent Mission Pickard Corridor Improvement Plan and its goals and objectives to the TIFFA plan. The plan will then allow the continued capture of 28% of taxes within the district to be used to meet the goals and objectives of the TIFFA. After the public hearing, no further action will need to be taken until October 14th. At that meeting, the City Commission will be asked to approve the proposed TIFFA plan and subsequent ordinance to continue the TIFFA capture.
Okay. So just to clarify again, we are going to receive public input on the topics. If members have any discussion or questions they'd like to pose, but no action is needed at this time. Okay. Okay. With that, I'm going to open up the public hearing on the discussed topic on the Mount Pleasant Downtown Development Authority and Tax Increment Finance Plan. Let's see, for Mission and Pickard Street. If you would like to give public comment, please step up to the microphone. You'll be given 5 minutes. Not seeing anyone coming up. If there is anyone on Zoom, please use the raise hand feature. Okay. Any additional emails at this time? Again, not seeing anyone rushing to talk about tax plans and whatnot. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. Let's see. The only bit of discussion or comment I'd like to make on that is, again, this has been discussed a couple of times. There was a document we had received in a previous packet that referenced an 88% capture rate. I believe that was what the initial capture rate was of the district, was what we had determined where that came from, or it was just a typo.
Yeah, I think it may have been a typo in looking back on it, because the initial capture rate is set between somewhere around, I think, 25 and 50% roughly is the leeway that group has. So it may have just been a typo when staff had created the amendment.
Gotcha. Yeah, longstanding tax capture district, and again, we're maintaining it at a 28% capture, no increases on that. Any other discussion from members of the commission on this topic? Okay, we'll move on to item number 17, public hearing to consider adoption of the 2025 master plan updates. Manager Dissents, if you would.
Absolutely. City Commission is asked to hold a public hearing to receive input on the proposed updates to the 2050 master plan. Staff has provided a report on the proposed changes to the plan, and a presentation was made at our last City Commission meeting. Both the city's Parks and Recreation Commission as well as the Planning Commission have recommended the updates for approval. After the public hearing, the City Commission is asked to approve the proposed updates.
Okay. So at this time, I'm going to open up the public hearing on the 2025 master plan updates. If you would like to speak on the topic, please step up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. You'll be given 5 minutes. If you are on Zoom, please use the raise hand feature.
Hello, my name is Jessica Carey. I live on 109 North Orange Street. I just want to start by saying I'm in full support of these changes. I think the changes in them, I think I've seen this presentation probably 4 or 5 times by now. I think they're in the right direction for the most part. And I just wanted to address that there are some minor problems that the changes are introducing. Very technical within the document. It's nothing major, but in book 2, we make changes to the future transportation map. We specifically changed the multimodal intersections to enhance non-motorized crossings. And there's no issue with this at all, but the issue lies on the next page, page 11, which is the typologies. We removed the multimodal intersections definition, but we didn't introduce a definition for enhanced non-motorized crossing. That is very important that we add a definition so people can't use their own definition. The other issue is in the first paragraph of the typologies page, excuse me. We didn't remove multimodal intersections there. So it's just a minor, we need to take that out. The other issue I found was in book 3, when we make changes to our pedestrian shed map. We are shrinking the maps, but yet we still call these quarter-mile buffers and half-mile buffers. I think it is very important that we change these terms if they're not going to actually represent quarter-mile and half-mile anymore. That is, again, it's just one of those things. It's a small change, but I feel like people could argue that the pedestrian sheds are bigger than what we are wanting to change them to. So if we really want to make these spaces smaller, which I'm all in favor for, I think it's critical we change those terms to maybe small pedestrian shed buffer, medium pedestrian shed buffer, just get away from the quarter mile and half mile. So that way no one can use that against us in the future. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Other members of the public who would like to give public comments at this time? Is there anyone on Zoom with raised hands? Any emails on the topic? Okay. Thank you, Director Moore. At this time, I'm not seeing anyone. I will go ahead and close the public hearing on the proposed 2025 master plan updates. Turn back to members of the commission for discussion and a potential motion. So a couple questions concerning those definitions for staff. Again, as they were addressed, thoughts or feedback on that?
All right, so yeah, first, thank you so much for the comments. Supportive, so book 2, transportation map, multimodal intersection. So we have removed a typology there because basically there was a typology on boulevards that included on-street parking, and we don't want to add on-street parking on Mission anymore. So that's one of the main changes from the Mission Street Improvement Plan. Therefore, we removed that for that purpose. I think what Joseph was mentioning may be related to explaining what the intersection could look like for incorporating pedestrian crossings. And we don't have that designed, but the previous master plan didn't have that either. We would have to basically design that with MDOT and then if it's in the city limits within the city engineering department as we try to implement those goals. But it's simply telling us the priority locations for pedestrian crossings. That's what we have in the plan today. The second comment on the pedestrian shed, the 0.25 and 0.5 blurbs, they are supposed to represent those distances and they're created with GIS, but I will ask the consultant to make sure that it is the correct distance indeed. So for example, on the South Mission Street, that boundary is elongated and it's wider because it is a hub for activity. Therefore, we go with the half-mile radius, and it's elongated because it's a corridor. So that's kind of why the pedestrian shed maps were changed. We didn't meant it to be a substantial change. But if the dimensions are not matching, we will fix it.
Okay. Follow-up question then on that. Let's say in the future, as like we're working with master plan, just again, it's a very comprehensive, large scale document. Definitions or anything come about that cause questions for staff that we encounter or developers in the future. How do we go about addressing those or making like corrections that's not necessarily updates to the plan, but if something came about that did present as an issue, how do we address that in the order of things?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So we can always create a separate document that tries to explain intention. So anything planning related regarding interpretation of zoning or planning documents like the master plan, we look at everything that's in the public record first to see if we have any indication that's in writing on the intention, and then we can explain what that means. If we don't have that, we can create documents that are just easier to read to explain the intention of certain elements that may exist in the policy document.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
While Manuel is up
I'll
here,
stay
any other
here, yeah.
questions for staff? Okay. Commissioner Alsager.
We have some letters in our packet about the Oak Street extension. Is that part of this discussion?
Yes, it is part of the master plan. Yeah, so we did receive a few comments, and I would say those were the comments that came after the last meeting, and then even prior to that. So it is kind of the main topic that was mentioned. So when we added that in the illustration on book 3, so it's the downtown sketch on the concept on how to strengthen the connection between downtown and Island Park. We added that Oak Street extension as an option to improve that connection. There may be other solutions to that. So master plan documents, whatever you see as visuals, it doesn't really mean we're going to build exactly like this, and that's what we're planning for. So I just wanted to say that the language in the illustration is showing an option. If that's something that the city is really considering and would like to either apply for funding or do an in-house plan, we will need to do public, we're going to have to do public engagement and decide on the specifics on what that will look like and kind of hear everybody out. Yeah, go ahead.
Commissioner Bush.
Oh, well, the other part of that is that bridge is a historic bridge.
We're not planning to, even in the drawing, which is again a conceptual, it's not removing the pedestrian bridge whatsoever. Yeah.
Commissioner Bush. Yeah.
I'm really glad you brought that up because I am personally concerned about that. And with my layman's brain, I don't understand why, if we have a plan that we're kind of receiving, like, if we're not going to do the plan, why do we feel like we need to include it? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main goal here with the plan is the intention behind the gesture. So in this case, we had already in the 2020 master plan that we feel a disconnect between the park and downtown. So that's the main premise of it.
In the 2020 draft, you may recall a drawing that had another pedestrian connection behind the Housing Commission building. And we have a huge grade change there. It would be costly, not ADA accessible, very hard way to create another connection to the park. So we met at staff level and we said, what else could we do? So at that time, we came up with the idea of the Oak Street connection through a vehicular connection in the park because we only have one. So maybe if we had another one, that would improve the connectivity. But again, the connectivity is the important part. How to get there specifically can be changed. And we added that language. It's a soft language. We don't say we want to extend Oak Street. We want to improve the connection, and the extension of Oak Street could be a way to get there. That's what we have in the current document.
I am usually 100, I feel like connectivity is obviously an important goal, but I would be interested in seeing something that is a caveat that sometimes you don't want more connection. I mean, there are some communities I've lived in where they've put a road up to stop something like that being a drive-through. I don't want to end up with the opposite problem, especially since we've just closed. Like, was this plan created? I'm sorry, I don't want to get bogged down on this specific thing, but I do think it's something that we received a lot of constituent comment about that's worth addressing in this discussion. Because was this idea considered before we developed the downtown meeting center?
The town center
The town
project?
center.
It came after.
Okay, because my concern is that people literally will just start driving through Highland Park then because they because
a
they're
horrible idea. Yep, absolutely.
it's
I
a
get you.
horrible idea, right? So I think that I would like to see that stricken from the master plan so that it is not misconstrued in any way. We can keep the part about connectivity, but keeping in mind that we want to have connectivity, but we also want to preserve the integrity of the park and the neighborhoods around it and stuff like that. So, more non-motorized connectivity, maybe. Let's go with this lingo again. But yeah, I'm really nervous about that. And I don't, is it possible to take that out and just take that map out?
Yeah, so I wish that there was a way for the city commission to adopt the ordinance with conditions, kind of like what we do with site plan reviews if we miss something.
Yeah.
There is no way to do that per state law. So you would need to deny the master plan,
Right.
kick it back to the planning commission, do the amendment, and then I'll need to come back for the adoption. I don't want to throw it out there because you have obviously the right to do that. It's part of the process.
It
The
just
only
doesn't feel
problem that I
basic.
have is a deadline with the grant that we received for the Mission Street plan. Yeah, so
I just have a problem with saying things we don't mean. And I just feel like in the interest of clarity, it just.
yeah, if I may just read the language that we have here in the book 3. Let me see.
Yeah, just talking about it. So while you're pulling that up, Manuela, Director Pawadiko, pulling up the language that is being discussed, since it seemed primary concern seems to be with the approval of the master plan seems to be the inclusion of the bridge as a possibility. Right now, as you're telling us, it's pass it as presented, or it would need to be sent back in its entirety. We can't make those amendments there. So once you have the reading there, we know our options available from staff of what they could do. We might want to discuss back and forth within the commission about what we'd be interested in doing there. So again, I don't want to put you continually on the spot to defend it or anything. So
yeah, so if I can just read the language and then state some facts about the document itself to help you through that discussion. So this is the downtown town center vision plan language. I'm going to read from the beginning just to provide context, and then the last sentence is the one you want to pay attention to about the Oak Street extension. So the downtown Mount Pleasant block defined by Mosier Street, North Main Street, and West Broadway Street and its immediate surroundings was the topic that received the most attention during the initial public engagement process during the development of the 2020 master plan. The main goals for the redesign of the existing town center parking lot and open space were followed as the city secured state and federal funding to complete the project in 2024. However, the public had also expressed a desire to strengthen connections between downtown, City Hall, and Island Park. Therefore, the drawing on the following page represents an option for extending Oak Street and creating a new vehicular entrance to Island Park from Broadway. And then in the next page, you would see the illustration. And then here we have an illustration key. So on the vehicular bridge, so you can see G, letter G says keep the existing pedestrian bridge. And then F says create access between downtown and Island Park, such as through an extension of South Oak Street. And then aside from that, we don't have anything in the goals of the master plan. There's no goal that talks about extending Oak Street into Island Park. So that, something like that, it's a pretty big infrastructure project that will have to become part of the CIP. And the CIP would then be that tool that you utilize to discuss that in more detail, see if that's something the city wants or not. So again, we added as an option language there, just because the other one that we had before was also not feasible. So we were just trying to come up with options to show that intention.
Gotcha. Thank you, Director Paladiko. Other discussion not related to the bridge, potentially before circling back to that topic, because I do want to circle back, but I want to make sure we get everything out clear. So any other concerns concerning the 2025 master plan updates? Okay. Thank you, Director Paladiko. So discussing this, if I may, I share some of the concerns presented by Commissioner Alsager and Commissioner Bush concerning the bridge and as an option, and as different residents and business owners have pointed out, I do share some of those concerns myself as well. I'd prefer, as far as discussing to the commission, I'd prefer to pass the master plan to keep us on course for our goal, or for the end of the year, and for the different grants that are being made. Discussing with other members of the commission who might share those concerns, though, would making sure that an inclusion in the minutes of specific concerns that we had that were discussed here this evening be a good way to address this, especially considering that the bridge is not currently in our capital improvement plan or or it's not being presented as a specific development. Commissioner Alsager.
My thought on that is, yes, we need to pass the plan, but it'd be good to have some note of our concern.
Okay. Gotcha. Commissioner Bush.
This is a learning curve for me because I feel like I'm learning that this is just basically the way sometimes master plans are written, that they are ideas. I just wish that there was a way that that was worded into the master plan, that anything we put in the plan, there are so many other steps in order for that to actually come into fruition. What I don't want to see happen is somebody down the road to latch on to this idea for whatever reason, and because I'm already thinking of like 3 or 4 other ways to do it. So I want to move on to what can actually be done. But yeah, I just don't want it to be something that somebody latches onto down the road and thinks that we put the rubber stamp on.
Other members of the commission.
I also have concern regarding that. People just driving through Island Park for the fun of it is not a good idea, in my opinion. Obviously, there's concern to pass the master plan. I'm curious if there's ways that we can protect the historic bridge that would inhibit us from being able to develop a bridge. That way we can pass a plan, we can address this concern, but we can make sure that in the future, it is not an option for development because it would impede on our historic bridge.
Gotcha. Vice Mayor Eke.
I am concerned as well. I think I expressed that concern to you, Mayor Wengard, that, I don't think that it is a good idea to construct another bridge, or at least, sort of deconstruct the one that we already have. I worry, I mean, there is a lot of traffic already around Island Park in terms of people riding their bikes, and sometimes not alerting, pedestrians, walkers that they're coming behind them, and to envision traffic or cars driving through, into Island Park for me is problematic. I do think that there is, we've been talking about our parks and the safety of our parks and security of people. And I think that is important to consider. If this is supposed to function as a park safe space for people, then I don't see why, we should construct or make it possible for a vehicle to go through there, other than maybe emergency vehicles or ambulances. So I am not supportive of this, but I do think that there's a possibility, if it is possible, to add an addendum to the master plan, high underscoring, which is, like a language that somewhere maybe asterisks that indicates at least, the concern of some of the commissioners regarding, the possibility of deconstructing the existing bridge or constructing a new bridge in the future. It is important for us to pass the plan right now so that, Manuela can meet the deadlines, otherwise we'll also undermine our own strategic goals.
Commissioner Perschbacher.
The master plan is like it has been for decades. It is a living document. It is something that we go back and we alter, we change. We look at it, we think, well, that seemed like a good idea then, but it's not so much a good idea now. It doesn't state that this new drive would be something that's going to happen. It states as an option, a possibility. And to even do that, it would have to go to the planning commission. It would have to have a public hearing. We would have to put all of the paperwork together to be brought to the commission for a vote before we'd even do anything that is even listed in the master plan right now. So I understand the concerns. I understand that. I also understand the concerns of having 2 exits out of a large park in case there is an emergency. So I see a lot of different options here, but I want to remind the commission that our goal is to pass the master plan so that we can move forward. But if anything is to be done that is in the master plan, it has to come back to us. We have to go through all of the paperwork. We have to go through the public hearing. We have to do everything, set the staff up to complete it before we even vote on it. So I understand this concern, but I want to remind the commission, either we pass it or we don't pass it at this point.
Thank you. Commissioner Rollins, any comments on this time? None. Gotcha. And I think the discussion is important on this. And I think would thank Commissioner Perschbacher for her comments there, because, as we talk about this, it's also our discussion educates the public as well. We've seen a lot of development this year that we have supported, that we encouraged and are supportive of, that was rooted in the master plan and the future land use plan. So I think it's drawn a lot of extra attention from members of the public who are concerned about how exactly does the master plan get used in the development process. And I think that's where the extra attention comes from personally. Thought process, unless there's other comments here, again, as I would like to, as far as discussion and course of action, I would be interested in hearing from the members of the commission if there's a motion to pass master plan as presented, or the updates as presented. I would refer to the specific language that's presented to us in our packet. Subsequently to that, I would put assuming we approve the plan as we have discussed, I would put forward a motion after that to just make sure we include in the minutes specific elements that were concerns about that topic. So it's just part of the public record and we build that in there. So in the future, people can refer back to that as a part of discussion. Concerns being specifically vehicular traffic increase within Island Park, and then effects to the historic bridge that is existing in that location. Were there any other concerns that were outstanding about that potential development? Gotcha. So,
Make a motion.
yeah, so if you, let's see, the specific language.
Okay, I move that we pass the master plan as presented or as amended.
Let's see.
Where's the language?
Yeah, so the language, City Commission approved the 2015 master plan update at their, let's see. Manager sense the language sufficient on that motion? Or Clerk Schmelzer?
Yeah, we should have a resolution in your packet for
Thank
the
you.
adoption of the 2050 master plan update.
I'm too far away from the language, so
No, you're good.
new language.
Page 5.
Page 5.
Thank you.
Fine. Well, I'm far away from page 5. Okay, if you find it, just go
Yep.
ahead. So I'm
No,
not
you're good.
enough. Because I am too far away from page 5. I'm at page 180 something.
Where is the attached resolution?
I have the wording.
Commissioner House.
Okay,
I move to adopt the attached resolution to approve the proposed changes to the 2025 master plan.
I second the motion.
Okay.
Okay. Motion was made by Commissioner Alasaker, seconded by Commissioner Skalitsky. All those in favor of approving the 2025 master plan updates, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Clerk Schmelzer, does that work for us as far as language? Perfect. I would like to make an additional motion then at this time to just include in tonight's minutes that the commission expressed concerns about a potential bridge connecting Oak Street into Island Park. These concerns being specific to vehicular traffic increases within Island Park and effects on the historic bridge at that same location.
I'll second that.
Okay. I had made the motion and it was seconded by Vice Mayor. All those in favor of including those concerns listed in tonight's minutes, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Okay, that brings us to the end of the public hearings. It brings us to new business. Manager dissents, if you would, number 18.
First up, we have consider a 10% contribution to Transportation Alternatives Program grant through the Michigan Department of Transportation for a shared use path on Mission Street. I will note what's being asked of the commission here this evening is going to be twofold. One is going to be the 10% match that you're being requested for, but the other is a resolution that had been included at all of your seats on the dais. We're also asking that this resolution be approved as well if the city commission so chooses. That said, to tee up this item, on September 11th, the Mission Pickard DDA voted to authorize a 25% match for a TAP grant that will be used to fund the installation of a shared use pathway along Mission Street from Bluegrass to Preston, then turn west along Preston, and then again turn north on East Campus Drive and connect to Bellows. The anticipated cost of this project will be $2.2 million, with $550,000 coming from the DDA. Successful applications for TAP grants have typically included a 35% or greater match. Staff is asking that the City Commission approve a budget amendment in the general fund to contribute 10% to the match, or a maximum of $220,000. Funds are available in the general fund.
Okay. Any questions or discussions from members of the commission? Okay.
No, I make a motion to approve the 10% match for the Mission Pickard shared use path from TAP grant.
I'll second that.
Is there a budget,
Approved budget amendment of 220,000 for the same amount. Excuse me.
I will
And
second
the
it.
resolution, if I can too, please.
Yes, and a resolution.
Thank you.
I was second that as well.
We'll consider it a very friendly amendment, yeah.
By the same person.
By the, yeah. So again, stating the motion is to approve the 10% match for the Mission Pickard Shared Use Path TAP grant application, and approve a budget amendment of $220,000 for the same, and to approve the presented resolution to adopt the 2025 Transportation Alternatives Program grant application for the city of Mount Pleasant. Made by Commissioner Sklitsky, seconded by the Vice Mayor. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Okay. Next on the agenda is item number 19, consider prioritization and approval of submission of city requests for fall 2025 Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe 2% allocation. Manager DeSense, if you want to tee us up.
Absolutely. City staff has prepared several grant applications for the fall 2% funding program through the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe. Each city commissioner is asked to prioritize their top 5 projects for consideration and to provide this information at tonight's meeting. From there, the grant applications, along with this priority ranking, will be provided to the tribe. The tribe will then announce awards in November.
Okay. Starting us or Clerk Schmelzer, generally you'll be recording this. If you want to call us off as you're ready to read out our prioritizations.
Commissioner Alsager?
Sure, and one of my comments is sometimes staff makes it very easy because they have 5 that are in the critical category, but this time there's 4, so that made me really look at the ones that are, determined to be high priority and then choose the one I thought was best. So anyhow, under the airport, both of them are considered critical. So the operational funding and the AWOS relocation. And then the next one under community services, the peak application. And then under public works, the landfill remediation. And then my bonus one is the lime disposal.
Wow.
Commissioner Bush?
I have, thank you. Peak in number 1 there, the landfill remediation, airport operations, the drone purchase, and the pocket neighborhood exploration.
Vice Mayor Eke?
I have peak. The airport, operational funding, AWOS, the North Franklin landfill, and I do have, the lime disposal. Sorry, Paul.
Commissioner Perschbacher?
I have the airport operating fund, the peak program, 1303 North Franklin landfill remediation, the AWOS relocation, and the drone.
Commissioner Rollins?
Okay, AWOS relocation, the peak program, lime disposal, sewer relining, and the drone.
Commissioner Sklitsky?
Airport operation, AWAS relocation, peak, the landfill remediation, and assessment of the water main.
What was the last?
Water main.
Mayor Wingard?
1303 North Franklin former landfill remediation. Peak. Airport operational funding. AWOS relocation. Cross Lanes Pocket neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clerk Schmelzer. Any other discussion on this item before we move on? Nope. Okay, that'll bring us to consider appointments to various boards and commissions by the Appointments Committee. So, talking about this, I had a brief chance to catch up with Commissioner Rollins beforehand, and I do apologize to the other member of the committee that I didn't have a chance to discuss this further. There's been, as noted earlier in the agenda, probably our most pressing board at this moment is the Zoning Board of Appeals. They have pending business before them, and there continue to be outstanding vacancies, unfortunately, despite our best efforts. Recognizing Zoning Board of Appeals Commissioners Laura Raisin's 13 years of service. She has resigned at this time. Right now, we have one application that we received today to fill that seat, but have not had an opportunity to review it with any comfort or anything. We had just received it, so I was looking potentially to, if the commission is all right with it, move the current alternate into that position, and then we'll consider for filling the alternate seat. The current alternate, Latricia Powell, we had appointed earlier this year, and we have reviewed her application previously, if the commission is comfortable with that. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So in that case, the other appointment then we'll review, and we'd be looking to bring in probably at the October 14th meeting then, so we can keep that item moving. I know that's pressing for both staff and members of the community on that, so we want to be able to hold that public hearing. But at this time, I would look to make a motion to appoint Latricia Powell to the open Zoning Board of Appeals seat for a partial term expiring December 31st, 2027. There'd be a second to that motion.
Second.
Okay. Motion is to move Latricia Powell, who's currently the alternate, into the position, the full-time position, expiring for a term expiring December 31st, 2027. I made the motion. It was seconded by Commissioner Rollins. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Okay. All right, that brings us to item number 21 on the agenda, discussion on proclamation process. So something that come up this since the past meeting, again, you'll note that there are two items closely related. The first is discussion on proclamation process, and then the second is discussion on the status of the city of Mount Pleasant as an international city of peace. In my mind, there are two separate topics. If they blend together, that's all right. But again, I saw them as two separate items, one being a larger discussion on how proclamations are made in the city and where that authority comes from. The second is a discussion on the actual International City of Peace designation that I'd like to bring back to the commission. But starting with, again, a discussion on proclamation process, this, again, a member of the commission had brought forward concerns about, again, the issues are fairly closely tied together. In my mind, they're separate, but wanting to talk about that. My understanding of the proclamation process, and this is something I had a discussion in June with the manager and the vice mayor on, is that I've not been able to find specific language within the charter or within state law that specifically designates that the mayor of a city creates a proclamation or anything. My understanding, it's largely a tradition-based topic and issue. And in my research, again, no proclamation, or the mayor alone cannot make a decision that binds the board as a whole. Official decisions are made by all 7 of us voting upon an issue. So proclamations are done in a ceremonial fashion for recognition, to designate days or significant events. That is my understanding of that topic. But again, I have also seen communities out there that have a specific and more formal policy and process for proclamations. My thoughts on what I've seen as I've researched this is other communities have for example, a submission form where members of the community could submit that, hey, the Bowlers Association has been working on this for many years, and they could fill out a form explaining why they think this topic is worthy of recognition by the city. My thoughts on that topic, and would want to get feedback from the other members of the commission or other concerns. I want to hear those as well. But again, talking about potentially a submission form for community residents to request recognitions, request proclamations, to acknowledge different specific times or days, events, or achievements within the community. And then potentially other topics as well. First, so if there's concerns or anything about the proclamation process, or potentially crafting a policy from the commission, thoughts from the members? Yeah, Commissioner Alsager.
Well, my thought is we're continuing a process that has been done here for years.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we need to have a form to make it more accessible,
Mm-hmm.
so be it.
Okay. Other members of the commission, questions or concerns on that? Vice Mayor?
As Commissioner Alsager has stated, this is not new. We have precedents. This is my first year on this commission. And at least for the 4 years that I have been here, several proclamations have been made. And I too have looked at our bylaws. I don't see any specification on proclamations being brought to the commission to finally say, yes, go forward with the proclamation. My recollection is that the proclamations, the desire for a proclamation is sent to the staff, and in the past, the precedents that I know, in the past, it's generally indicated on the agenda that a proclamation would be made. I don't recall that I have been consulted when the proclamation has been brought forward. And so I'm trying to unravel what the concern really is. But if, as Commissioner Alsager has indicated, we want to formalize it through a document or a form that makes it possible for those bringing forward a proclamation to get it through the process, I would support that. But if the issue is that a proclamation has been made that was not brought to the commission to approve, I don't know that there has been a precedence for that, right? And I am not so sure what, I'm not so sure what the issue is. However, I do support, streamlining the process. If it is, creating some kind of documentation or formalization of the process, if that's what we're asking.
Okay. Commissioner Perschbacher.
It has always been that proclamations have been brought to us by the public, by organizations in the area. We do a proclamation for workers' safety. We do a proclamation for the International Day of Peace. We do a proclamation for Juneteenth. There's a lot that have been brought, but they're always brought from the public. Some of them are yearly proclamations because we have dedicated to proclaim each Juneteenth, each June 19th as Juneteenth Day. The problem is that the proclamations have never been something that has designated the city as something. A proclamation is from the public stating we would like recognition for, like what we did today for the Bowlers Hall of Fame. I think that that is perfectly fine because somebody in the public has stated we would like the city to recognize this. I do not ever want to see proclamations become a way of putting feathers in the caps of the city commission. That is the problem that I had with last meeting's proclamation, which was actually a declaration that should have never been brought forward without city commission discussion and possible approval or non-approval. A proclamation is always brought by the residents of this city. It has never been brought by the city commission to prompt up the city commission.
Commissioner Alsager.
And I don't know if this is a question for Manager DeSense, but when it comes to us, it's in a very nice form. So someone writes it up very nicely.
Yeah, true staff works on the wording of the proclamation.
Okay.
Vice Mayor.
Response. Point of correction. Designation of the city as an international city of peace did not come from the mayor or the vice mayor. I do recall either late last year or early this year, as part of our engagement of what we're doing or what we would like to see, I suggested that this would be a good idea for the city, not the city commission, because we are doing a lot of things that work towards peace. I do recall that the mayor asked the commissioners whether this is something we would like to pursue. My recollection is that several commissioners, at least most, said yes. We then asked the manager to work on this. Sometime this year, manager sent us an indication that we had applied and we had been designated, not the mayor, not the vice mayor, not any commissioner here, as a city of peace.
From who?
They applied.
No.
Perhaps.
What organization?
Perhaps they, if you'd let me, right? Can I finish? Excuse me. At which point, we worked on a proclamation, as in previous proclamations, I would assume, which was read out. The designation did not come from the commissioners. I don't recall that the commissioners or the mayor or vice mayor, if that's what my colleague is implying, is that the goal is to, how did she put it? Put feathers in the cap of the city commission. It is the city, not the city commissioners. The city of Mount Pleasant, I want to, again, as you know, I recapitulated when I was asked if I wanted to say something, has been engaged in a lot of work that has to do with peace. What the designation does, at least the organization does, is to look at what a city has been doing to work towards peace or if it has had a history of working, doing things that promote peace. And that's it. There's no commitment of resources. I don't think so. At least not that I'm aware of. So I am not so sure what the angst is all about. And I am frankly baffled because if we think about the things, right after the proclamation was the International Peace Day, which just passed. CMU does peace events. Every May it raises flags to honor peace. The healing, honoring, and remembering event has to do with working towards peace. There are a number of organizations here that also work towards peace. So Mount Pleasant, by virtue of some of its activities, all the residents in Mount Pleasant, all the organizations in Mount Pleasant, by virtue of the things that they have been doing, have been working towards peace. What this designation does, and perhaps Manager Mayor, you might ask Manager Descents to perhaps tell us the process that they went through to get us there, so that I don't want to, talk for him. By virtue of doing that, sort of helps us, consolidate the things that we have been doing.
Bringing the topic, I appreciate the comments there. Keeping them separate to, I think there's a bit more to like accomplishing by separating them out. Hearing from Commissioner Perschmacher, it sounds like the primary concerns over the proclamation process is making sure that proclamations come to us from the public versus from within the body, versus from within. And then also acknowledging that there are yearly proclamations that we do. And then also concerns over the specific I don't know the final lines of a proclamation being proclaiming versus designating is like as far as concerns over specific language in there. Talking about definitions. So in that kind of in that theme there, because I mean, question I would have is, if members of the commission did have something they were interested in having proclaimed. Again, if a member of the commission did represent a interest group from within the city and wanted to spearhead that taking place, how would a member of the commission bring that forward? So as far as like if a member of the commission wanted to prompt a proclamation or a recognition, going back to we recognize Pride Month, if an LGBTQ member of the commission was elected and we weren't currently recognizing Pride Month, how would that member of the commission from within the body prompt that recognition? Yeah, Commissioner Alsik.
Well, probably with support from their group,
Gotcha.
not just from the commission.
Okay. Gotcha. So with that, let's see. My thought process on this, kind of some standards that I think I would like to see potentially a draft policy on, and I think that would serve well for the future if there was transitions from within the commission, because we're also handing off to the next commission, whoever they may be. Potentially looking for a draft policy. In a few minutes, I'd like to make a motion. This isn't the motion, but I'm going to working up to that. To direct staff to create a draft policy for us to review on a proclamation process, potentially looking for like Q1 of next year. So that way we have time to research and work on that. But again, before a motion is made, kind of presenting to members of the commission criteria for what I think would be beneficial to see within that policy. So drafting a submission form for community residents to request recognitions and proclamations so that there is a more formalized process. They don't just have to have one of our phone numbers or have the mayor's phone number. They could just go online to the commission's page and submit information or letters of support or like information on that. potentially a reoccurring list of agreed upon proclamations. Potentially, we could agree upon proclamations that are reoccurring throughout the year. Again, I think there are things such as, again, Pride Month, which are, some would say, is a more liberal leaning thing.
Peace.
Yeah.
What department within the city would be responsible for processing this?
I would imagine that would fall under the manager's jurisdiction, as that would be the legislative branch or the department.
Executive branch?
Yeah, I would, manager just sends if you'd like to comment
Yeah,
on it.
that's correct. So proclamation requests typically come in to the assistant to the city manager, and she'll take care of them.
Okay. Gotcha. Let's see, and potentially a recommendation on when to defer to the commission if something becomes before to a mayor who, so just something within the policy that just says it's recommended to the mayor that if a topic occurs in such a fashion to defer back to the rest of the commission for a resolution, or, yeah, Commissioner Alsager.
We've never had input before. We just receive them and they're always in a good format and we present them. I don't know that we need to get involved in the decision making.
Okay, gotcha. I suppose, again, I've been on the commission for several years now. And I agree, that's the process that we have seen there.
Yeah.
But to my knowledge, it's just longstanding history and practice that doesn't get explained or anything necessarily of where a proclamation comes from. It's something that we as commissioners just see happen. So unless that's verbally handed off from mayor to mayor, as far as a standard practice, there is nothing in place to say, I can't go up there and proclaim that the best color in the world is green, and we're going to formally support MSU from now on versus CMU. There's nothing, I'm a rules person, there's nothing in the rules that I can tell that specifically forbids such a thing. So that's
We
where,
should definitely forbid that.
thank you, yeah. Gotcha. So I would like to make a motion then to direct staff in Q1 of 2026 to come back to the commission with a draft proposal or a draft policy on proclamation process with inputs on a submission form for the community residents to request recognitions, potentially a recurring list of agreed upon proclamations or as something that is rooted in tradition, and recommendations on when to potentially defer to commissioners, to the commission. And that's my motion. Is there potentially a second out there?
Second.
Okay. Motion was made by Mayor Wingard, seconded by Commissioner Bush. Is everyone clear on the motion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Okay. That brings us to item 20 on the agenda, international discussion on the international cities, on the status of the city of Mount Pleasant as an international city of peace. So to the specific topic at hand then, the specific proclamation that was issued that I think started this conversation. So the proclamation again recognizes us as an international city of peace, which is again a recognition. We work with, it's in work in concert with I believe it's International Cities of Peace, which is an international 501c3 that functions much as a trade organization or a trade group. It is made up of over 450 cities from around the world that recognize themselves as cities of peace, and that is a self-recognized title from within them. As the Vice Mayor recognized earlier, there is no commitment of funds or commitment of ordinance, policy, any kind of statement of that nature. We join a total of 5 other cities within the state of Michigan who currently have that designation, have recognized themselves as such, including Midland, Traverse City, Houghton, Detroit, and Kalamazoo. So talking about this and reviewing the proclamation, my thoughts on it were, again, I looked back to tradition that has taken place historically throughout the city. Again, CMU does a yearly raising of the peace flag since 2015. The city has recognized, has done Peacemaking Recognition Day every January 15th for the number of years, in concert with the Mount Pleasant Public Schools Martin Luther King Jr. Peacemaking Awards Ceremony. Let's see, and then also probably the biggest highlight, especially recognizing International City of Peace. We have maintained one of the longest running sister city relationships in Michigan. With Okaya, Japan, which the goal of sister cities is to promote peace through international relationship building. So that was some of the history that I relied on, making me comfortable in making this proclamation. Similar proclamations recognizing September 21st as an International Day of Peace had been made also in September of 2023 as well, as far as I can tell. So there's a rich history invoked and united by that recognition of that title there. Now, if there's concerns about the specific designation or language, I have to admit that I did not specifically write the proclamation, but I did in fact read it as mayor. So I still have to take responsibility for, again, if there's any conflicts over the language there. That was something that I put forward. Manager Jassen said, talked to you previously. Could you tell us a bit about the timeline for the International Cities, a piece of like what we had talked, like where that came from as far as staff? I believe we had, let's see.
As far as the timeline goes, I'm not starting to have to go
No,
back
you're
and
good.
take a look through the emails,
No, you're good.
and maybe our agenda meetings.
Yeah. Okay. Referring back to Vice Mayor Eke, she had previously brought it forward to the members of the commission, as I recall. Staff had researched it, and then the organization was more than happy to already acknowledge us as soon as we started researching the topic. And then staff brought it back to us in an email to find out if there was any concerns over a proclamation, I believe is my understanding there. I don't believe any concerns were heard, and the proclamation was drafted, which I read at the previous meeting. Again, Vice Mayor, or excuse me, Commissioner Alsager.
My issue with it is that there's a list of, I think, 10 criteria to be a city of peace, that you've maybe experienced war, you've recovered from war. It's a very detailed list. And I was expecting that we would be having our usual proclamation of having a day of peace, recognizing that. I'm not sure that we really qualify as an international city of peace.
Okay. Vice Mayor Ake?
The criteria that you read are criteria, they are or. It doesn't say you have to have experienced all of those. You've experienced war and recovered from war, yes. If you've been working towards peace, engaged in activities in terms of peace building in your communities, yes. There are small cities, over 400 cities across all the continents. And we have about 5 or 6 of them. They have not experienced war, but they have been engaged in activities that promote peace. Part of it is safety, peace, security of persons. Have we been doing that? I do think that we have been doing that. And so the organization, they applied, the staff applied, and the organization took a look at the submission and said, yes, we, and said we do qualify. Have we been doing activities that have to do with peace? Yes, I think so, we have. I am not so sure what, again, I keep trying to figure out what the quarrel is all about, and, I am lost. I am completely lost. May I make this? If the quarrel is, may I ask a question, Mayor Wingard?
You may.
Does Commissioner Pershbacher wish to rescind Mount Pleasant being identified a city of peace? Is that the object? or, the objective of this? Because I am completely lost, in terms of, trying to unravel what, the quarrel is all about, or what the anxiety is all about. So if the commissioner wants to rescind, that, I think, perhaps she can make a motion to say she wants to rescind it.
Commissioner Perschbacher.
My problem with this is that it was mentioned during announcements that you wanted us to look into it, and then nothing was brought back to the commission. The commission was not told that we were pursuing this. There was, in my understandings, reading the International Cities of Peace website, I don't see how we fit into many of those categories. I understand some of what you're saying, but did we talk to CMU about their contribution? Did we talk to the tribe about their contribution? Did we even bring it back to the city commission? You're stating that you were designating us as a city of peace. And I understand that, but you cannot do that as one person on this commission. This commission contains 7 of us, and we all should have been on that process, understanding what is happening. If you say that we follow all of this, and according to the International Cities of Peace, we are on there, we are the 453rd International City of Peace, that's fine. But I don't want you to think because you are vice mayor or mayor that you have more vote or more power than anyone else on this commission. I do not understand how that was brought up in an announcement and then nothing was ever said until you brought this proclamation forward.
Excuse me. I'd like to respond. Point of correction.
But am I
Commissioner.
done yet?
Are you done? I don't know. Are you done?
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
So
please be
Commissioner
done, and then
Perschbacher.
I will respond, please.
I just want to make sure that we are all equal commissioners on this board, that we are not trying to do something other than give the commission full information. There was a letter that was written by the city commission when the war in Israel and Gaza started. And it was a request from Boomer Wingard, commissioner at the time. And we went back and forth with that letter within the commission. Not at one point did I allow one person to write it or one person to understand it or one person to critique it. I allowed everyone that was on the commission to read it and put in their two cents. And that was something that I was not supportive of writing because I felt that it was not the place of this commission as a city. But because a commissioner had brought it forward, I brought it to the rest of the commission. All I'm asking is that if you are deciding to do something, it must go before all 7 of us.
May I respond, please?
Discussing that, I appreciate that. I would agree. Working through any of these topics, we should be focusing on all 7 of us making a common decision there. The specific language that was utilized in this proclamation, it does specifically state that the council, well, it's the commission, designates us as such. I think the language was probably written more in the vein of a resolution versus in the vein of a proclamation there. Talking about specifically my recollection on the ceasefire proclamation, or not proclamation, that was a resolution. That, as it came forward, was brought to us originally by a member of the public who brought that forward. And then I don't believe I was the sole voice on it. I know I had communicated with you on that, but it's something I stand by still. There was language that I contributed to that, and that was language we had back and forth on.
And we went back and forth among the commission.
Just make sure.
We went back and forth among the commission. It was not one sole person that did it.
Correct, yeah.
And in the proclamation, it says the city commission, mayor, and citizens of Mount Pleasant wish to acknowledge this legacy. You're putting us as being part of writing this. And I know that our proclamations are written by staff, and I appreciate staff every time they write them, because they do a lot of work and they do a lot of looking up all of the information and trying to get all of the facts correct. But I wasn't told that this was going to happen.
Commissioner Bush?
I just want to add another voice. And I will say that I think one of the reasons why this is so sensitive is because it is such an important issue. And I know for one, I think that a broader discussion probably would have been helpful to, feel some ownership in this. And I agree also with in terms of, contacting our other organizations. I mean, for example, our partner organizations, for example, we are a city whose history includes conflict, and we are a survivor of wars. I mean, these wars are decades old, but their impact is still deeply felt in our community. And I think that is all the more reason why this is important for our city, but it's not just about like making the resolution and then walking away. It is about starting having this broader conversation. And I, for one, understand that, if these voices are coming from the commission, then yes, I believe that we should have discussed this as a commission, largely because it is so important.
Okay. Other members of the commission who haven't had a chance to speak yet? Commissioner Sklitsky, Commissioner Rollins?
Yes, I would like to chime in that I don't want to see any of us go to war over being a city of peace.
We can't have peace.
I feel like I was responsible for a lot of the controversy that we have seen as a commission regarding this proclamation. I feel like there's a lot of lines that were crossed with some of my comments and statements regarding the Immigrant Trust Act and that proclamation going hand in hand, which for the record are two totally separate items. I would also like to apologize to anybody that I blindsided with bringing that up here a couple of weeks ago. But I feel in this atmosphere and these divisive times that we should be proud of the fact that given our diverse community, that we are willing to look out for our neighbors despite their race, religion, or country of origin. So I brought that up kind of in response, but they are two totally separate things. And I do want to make sure that that is clear to not just the commission, but to the public as well.
Commissioner Rollins?
Yeah, I was one of those people that are blindsided by. So they are two separate, totally separate things that need to be addressed.
Gotcha. Vice Mayor?
I appreciate this conversation because it underscores I'm going to call it a perspectival difference, ways of looking at things or understanding things. I appreciate the conversation because it reveals a lot in terms of where we are or how we conceptualize what we're doing. I want to point to some misrepresentation in what I'm hearing. One, at no point did I have a hand in writing the proclamation. I want that understood. The proclamation that was presented to us used the format that has already existed. It's always been there. It was there. What was modified was what was addressed in terms of the peace elements. At no time did I call the organization and say, designate Mount Pleasant as a city of peace. I want my colleague to understand that, so that my colleague does not spend the time saying, you doing things by yourself. Staff sent out a letter sometime either in June or July or August to indicate that we have been accepted as a city of peace. I read it. Perhaps my colleague didn't see it. The agenda did identify that this proclamation was coming forward, just as proclamations have also been indicated in or on our agendas in the past. We could have stopped that at that point, pulled the commissioner aside and said, this is way too early. Can we have a conversation on this? Would like to set it aside. That would have been okay. I recall specifically that I brought that forward. It wasn't just because I was interested in it, but also because there were events in this community that have been addressing peace. And in fact, somebody asked me if we were a city of peace, given all the things that we were doing. I brought it forward. I did not insist that we have to be. I said it would be a great idea for us to do this. Can we do this? We investigated. I am not imagining that. And so for a colleague to sit back and start pointing fingers and saying, you registered us, you are functioning unilaterally. Absolutely not. I don't function unilaterally. I work collaboratively. I understand the need for a conversation. My colleague could easily have done that, looking at the agenda. There's nothing prohibitive about that. I worry about accusatory languages or the violence done through words. I worry about that. And I am completely embarrassed by the absurdity of having to almost engage in unsavory diatribe over the fact that we actually have been identified or designated as an international city of peace. That concerns me. What an irony. I ask again, if Commissioner Parshbacker wants us to rescind, please make a motion. We vote to rescind, or we don't rescind. That's up to you. But I do think that in terms of protocol, it seems to me that the existing protocol was followed. The only distinction is that Commissioner Ake had suggested at a certain point that this might be a good idea. There is no document, no record anywhere that says there is an alternative way of doing this besides following an already existing protocol. It is also not a sanctuary city. That designation does not mean a sanctuary city.
No, it absolutely does not. I feel like a lot of this comes from maybe it should have been read as an acknowledgement that we have been recognized as an international city of peace. I feel like that could have cleared up a lot of this. I hope that the commission can accept this as a badge of honor, as I think it was intended to be, and that we can move on and work on more pressing issues rather than splitting hairs on words and yeah, just take it as a badge of honor because I personally I am proud of the fact that we have been recognized as and we are identified as somewhere deserving of peace.
Internationally.
Internationally.
Yes, me too.
Here, here.
I think that's a good point for the conversation. So again, no actions required. Is there any action that or motions to be made on this topic? Okay. As always, I appreciate the discussion, the debate, and making sure that we are all investing properly into our community and taking our jobs seriously with oversight amongst ourselves. So again, working into the future, I think this is something that we can have further discussion on. It guides my performance as someone who's chairing the meetings and the recognition of equals on this process. Talking about this is something, again, I see as a badge of honor, and I appreciate the rest of the commission showing their interest in, we didn't talk enough about it, about celebrate this enough about us being an international city of peace, potentially. If there are any disagreements out there, I do prefer to hear motions or votes in opposition. I think votes in opposition are okay and acceptable. If we are seeing things voted unilaterally or unanimously, then the assumption is that we're all on the same page. When we withhold votes in opposition, it doesn't inform information.
We weren't given a vote.
Oh, I refer back to, so is there a motion that you would like to
No,
make?
there's no motion, but I'm just saying, you're saying that, you know, we should oppose when we want to, but we weren't given a vote.
Oh, I understand that.
on
I
this,
refer back
so-
to the comment you introduced into the discussion about the ceasefire proposal or
Yeah.
the call for ceasefire. You mentioned that you were in opposition to it, but as I recall, it passed unanimously.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So in this same vein here, if there is such great issue with it, then
There are times when I will vote a yay to keep from the commission looking divided. But it does not mean that I fully support what has happened.
Gotcha. And that's, I think, just a difference in philosophies and our approach to voting and like our position on the commission then.
Yes.
In any case, at this time, I'm going to call for a recess.
10 minutes.
Yep.
Announcements.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Sorry. Yeah, I was so ready for the work session to move into it. Thank you, Commissioner Bush, for keeping us on track. We'll move into announcements on city-related issues and new business. Commissioner Alsager, if you want to start us off?
And nothing tonight.
Nothing tonight. Commissioner Bush, yourself.
This Friday is Mount Pleasant Public Schools homecoming, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So there'll be a parade downtown and a bunch of pretty people all dressed up, taking their pictures in our parks and stuff like that. It's supposed to be amazing weekend, and the colors are amazing also. That's it.
That's a great announcement right there. Vice Mayor Eke, any announcements on city-related issues?
Nothing.
Okay. Commissioner Perschbacher.
Just a reminder that because we are in fall, our beautiful days are numbered. Get out into our park system, enjoy the beautiful system that we have here along the river. Take a walk, take a bike ride, walk your dogs, make sure that they are leashed. And I'm gonna sound like Bob Barker. Please neuter and spade your pets and make sure that they are vaccinated. That is how we keep our entire city safe. Yes, please.
Commissioner Rollins, any announcements or new business?
None today.
Okay. Commissioner Sklitsky.
I would like to remind everybody that as we head into fall cleanup season, it is hazardous to leave grass and leaves in the road.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Couple for me. First, this past week, there was a fairly significant fire affecting 3 different businesses in the downtown area, affected Pleasant City, Painted Turtle, and the new business yet to open, Stitches and Oddities. As a downtown resident, I just want to give my thanks to the members of the Public Safety Department and our community partners in the neighboring townships and municipalities who helped respond to that fire. It was again, the damage was fairly significant to the businesses. But again, I appreciate the hard work of our public safety team. Our partners at Middle Michigan Development Corporation wanted me to pass along that they are running a GoFundMe to help support those 3 businesses as they are dealing with a little bit of uncertainty right now. That would be GoFundMe.mmdc.org. They are currently just seeking donations to help support, again, those 3 businesses as they explore what's next and as to address the fire damage. Let's see. The other item I had, I needed to note that I was canceling my office hours on October 1st. Normally they're held at Green Tree Co-op from 6 to 7 p.m. I will actually be rescheduling them to fall in line at October 17th at the Discovery Museum during their Fall Fest fundraiser. I have been asked to sit in the dunk tank, so anyone who has business with the mayor can take it up between 5 to 8 p.m. at the Discovery Museum's Fall Fest fundraiser on October 17th. So members of the commission, staff, or community, if you have issues concerning city business that you need to take up or get off your chest, please come on down on October 17th from 5 to 8 p.m. At the Discovery Museum. Yeah, thank you. My soon-to-be wife has got it in writing for the first pitch to take that. So, which, as the other notes, I will be out on the 14th. I will not be at that meeting. Vice Mayor Eke should be chairing that meeting. That would be it for myself. And that brings us then to the long-awaited public comments on agenda and non-agenda items. If you're
You forgot the last couple.
No.
last couple,
Anybody
For
else?
Did Grace?
No, I
Yeah.
have nothing.
Oh, okay.
alphabetically, W, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Again, thank you for keeping me on track. Let's see. That brings us to public comments on agenda and non-agenda items. If there's any members of the public who would like to come forward and give comments on any topic, they may do so at this time. You'll be given 5 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record. Not seeing anyone running up. Is there anyone on Zoom with raised hand? No? Any additional emails at this time? Okay. With that, I'm going to close public comments on agenda and non-agenda items, and we'll be at recess until 9:55. Right. Manager Sense, if you want to tee us up.
Yeah, absolutely. So as the city commission knows, the city had conducted a workplace environment survey, the results of which were delivered to the city commission as part of a presentation from Epic MRA. The mayor, vice mayor, and I had discussed the setting up a work session here to just talk about some after action, discuss what we saw in that survey, and discuss essentially how to address some gaps and concerns.
Starting us off on the topic, I believe you had updated goals and objectives with some takeaways there. If you could refresh us with some of the conversations that staff have had currently.
Yeah, so if we're just talking about some of the things that I saw, takeaways
Yeah.
related to our 2026 goals and objectives, things to address within the next year here. I think the big focus was on communication. We talked internally about what's working, what's not working, maybe trying some different things. One thing that had come up related to communication was our leadership meetings. Leadership is comprised of all of the essentially supervisory, personnel management within the organization, and trying to do our bi-monthly meetings a little bit different, utilizing AI platforms to take good notes for everyone. So that way communication from those meetings is cohesive, comprehensive across all channels within the organization. So that was one of the main areas in which we focused in trying to make some changes and seeing if that helps. Another is just discussing the why of a lot of things. So a lot of different changes within the organization within the past 4 years, and making sure that we underline the why for a lot of these changes across the organization.
Okay. Air conditioning went off. Let's see.
Quiet.
Got a lot quieter.
Do
Yeah,
we ask
discussing.
questions or anything? Are we allowed?
Yeah, certainly. If you'd like to start us off with questions.
Okay, so we got this survey, and as I would generally say, we come at things from different perspective, and you and I have had a number of conversations, and where I said, yeah, I'm looking at this thinking the issue is communication, but there's also a structural issue, so communication this way seems okay. But communication this way horizontally seems to me to be and that's why I appreciated when you inserted that, in one of the areas, goals that you're going to work on. I wonder what, in looking at this, what you've just done is to summarize where you would go or what you might do. I wonder whether the kind of feedback you may have received from staff in the, in the unit. What was their take? What are some of the comments? Because clearly they would have seen the survey. It's public document, right? So what are some of the feedback you got from them, in terms of, or their responses to, what they were seeing? Because this is clearly about the unit too.
As far as
Can you share some? Sorry.
but I would say what I had shared just now was really the common theme amongst different divisions across the organization. So
Okay.
those were the common themes. Everyone's got different opinions on the survey and what it meant, but this is where I think everyone, at least in senior management team and in their discussions with leadership, this is the area that they feel that we agree upon.
Okay. Okay.
Questions or takeaways from other members of the commission?
I appreciate that you're using, you had said that you use AI as kind of like to help in the meeting so that I use the same thing in my classroom. I use an AI recorder so that when I'm done with the lecture, I have a summary that I can post with with the PowerPoint so that students get that bullet point and that, I also use that in MML this past week, so that whatever I was in, I could pull up that summary along with the transcript of what was said and, look over it again. Because there are times that, your mind wanders. We have default in our brain at least 20 to 30% of the time. So we just wander off and then we come back and we don't realize what we've missed. So I do appreciate you using that technology, which I think is very important. Understanding how to use AI in appropriate ways where it can benefit us is great. So using it as summary or being able to redo or kind of like allow the staff to look at it again and refresh what they had heard. I appreciate that.
I would follow up and say, yeah, for summary and not for interpretation, though, I think is kind of where I find the conflict, starts to get a little muddy. This is maybe adjacent to the climate survey. There were, reasons why we asked questions regarding management, because even though this was very distinctly about the general climate, some of the concerns that were brought up were about management issues. And so with that, we are responsible for the evaluation of the city manager, and there is nobody else on the pay scale who is really your supervisor other than us. And so what I would like to understand, I think, so we can be better prepared, well, hopefully nothing, everybody's perfect and everybody does wonderfully, but I trust that probably in the interest of professional responsibility and development, you would like the most accurate and thoughtful evaluation we can offer you. I mean, I think that's something that professionals look for in the interest of development is a true and honest, evaluation. So in order for that to happen, I would like to know what are the best practices, policies in place where if there is a complaint, how is that handled? In terms of mediation, in terms of human resources, in terms of legal action, what are the policies and procedures in place so that if there is an issue, we can address it? Because I think that some of this frustration and confusion and drama, for lack of a better word, occurred because we had these, it could be rumors really, but we didn't have anything in place as a commission as to how we are supposed to handle that. So I tried to reach out to MML. I really kind of feel like I've been getting the runaround a little bit, and I know we can't be the only ones who deal with this. So I just was wondering if you had any thought in terms of what your expectations, goals would be for if we were to deal with a complaint in the future, because it's better for us to know about it and, go through an official process than to be blindsided, then have to deal with damage control.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, as far as the process goes, it's pretty well laid out. I know it follows essentially what our ethics ordinance is too, and that is if there's a complaint about the city manager, that complaint is to go to the city attorney. City attorney would then complete an investigation to determine if the complaint is true or not. The contents of that report would then go to the city commission, and many people in the organization and formally within the organization know that as well.
Okay. So I guess if there was any formal complaint that was made, it did not pass the muster of the city attorney? Is that what the,
I wouldn't find out about any sort of complaint. You guys would hear directly. Typically, the mayor would know about this directly from the city attorney. So if there's any sort of complaint out there, I certainly don't know about it. And given that we haven't discussed any formal complaint or report from the city attorney, I'm assuming no such report was made and no such complaint was made.
I'm asking for clarity here. Complaint about what?
In general, I think.
Or in general,
Well,
or specifics? I mean, this
and
is
that's why I'm trying to bring, that's why I'm looking for clarity, because yeah, they're, like I said, it could have just been rumors,
about what?
complaints against the city manager. And I'm talking,
Okay,
I'm talking a year ago.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm talking about, so I'm just talking about how we can be prepared for that to happen in the future, because we would, like I said, it could be just rumors. So,
I can tell you that there were no formal
no formal
complaints.
complaints.
When I was mayor, no formal complaints were brought to me. They were not brought to me by the city attorney. The only thing we got were those emails and letters from an anonymous person, which to me felt like there was a concerted effort to disrupt.
Sure.
Rather than an actual complaint. And I had voiced that many times, that I did not feel that this was anything other than a concerted effort because somebody was disgruntled. I can tell you, when I was at the MML convention this past week, I talked to many city commissioners, mayors, city managers, and some of them that were new in their position, maybe only a year or two in their position as city manager. And many of them were saying that, what is usually happens is they get into a new position as city manager, and people who had already been thinking, well, maybe it's about time I retire, or maybe it's about time I do this, or maybe I should pursue this, and they do. The problem is that we had a disruptor somewhere within the system that chose to push further a narrative that was false. And then whoever this directive is coming from, which I think I do know, has continued to push this effort to cause division between the city commission and the staff and the city manager. So, number one, I don't know why we're looking at this again from Epic MRA. Epic MRA said that the survey was well done, that it shows that the majority of the staff employees appreciate working here and have good thoughts about it. So I don't know why we're talking about it again. The manager dissents has already told us the different ways in his goals and objectives, the things that are moving forward, some of the stuff that they're doing. He just told us now some of the things that he has revamped. Because I don't think that if you brought to manager dissents, if you said, you know what, manager dissents, I'm really not thrilled with yellow on you, he would never wear yellow again in the city commission chambers, right? He's going to take what we bring to him and he's going to adjust, because that is the part of intelligence, is the ability to adapt to the situation. And he has always taken that information that we have brought to him and adjusted himself. He has taken information from other senior management team and adjusted. So I don't know why we're having a work session on this when we have other things we could have a work session on that are more pressing than this. This survey is done.
Yeah. So I think part of having the work session is, being a public body means we have to show and tell. We have to be.
We already did.
No, so I mean, I think part of the discussion here is just the fact that, again, like, we took the time, we felt strongly enough as a commission to approve this survey, to do this survey, to conduct this survey. Staff gave us this feedback. We received the feedback, and then the commission as a body hears from staff and receives
Yes,
their
and we did
interpretations
that.
also. And so part of it is just furthering the discussion that takes place there. So again, if we never talked about it again, as far as members of the public watching, how would they know we're doing anything if we don't talk about it? So part of it is talking
But
about
we did talk about it. And we did ask Manager DeSense to take and make changes, and he has.
Mhm.
I don't understand why we continue to talk about it.
Well, I think
It's
yeah,
done.
talking about it again, like as you noted,
Mhm.
just 5-6 minutes ago, Manager DeSense expounded upon the actions that they're taking. Now we have that expounded. We have that additional information. We have this conversation that we've been spending a lot of time on. Again, wrapping it up, yes, but continuing that conversation so we know where we go from here. So we know that like we're working on our goals and objectives. So it's further, so we can have actionable takeaways from this survey. If staff take the time to have that survey, to engage with that and give us that feedback.
And how many sessions did we spend on it? Tons.
Yeah.
Including work sessions, including having Epic MRA come and explain to us how it was presented to us, telling us that it was a good survey, it showed strength within the city. But by what directive are you following now?
I think this will probably be nearing the end of it, I would imagine.
Nearing the end?
So talking about it, again, I won't know where the commission's at until we have a conversation about it. I haven't had a chance to go around and survey people individually about like, hey, we got the survey results back, we sat with it for a bit. How are you feeling about this? What is your thoughts on it? And Commissioner Perschbacher, I'm clearly hearing your thoughts on this. Again, we had voted unanimously to do this all the way back at the beginning. We voted unanimously. There was no dissent in engaging in this process. And now you're making it very clear where you're standing on this position.
I just don't see why we need to continue discussing it. We have discussed it. It has been brought to the city. We continue to beat it.
I guess
I don't understand. So what part do you think is going to change now? Because we're discussing it again. What part's gonna change? It was a good survey. Epic MRA said that it showed strength and it showed support within the city.
I don't think anybody's disagreeing with it.
Why are we talking about it again, though?
I think we're just looking for an opportunity to say, any further questions? Are there? Nope. Okay, good. It didn't have to be super involved. I had a question that was not brought up in a public meeting that frankly was maybe only secondary related to this that I now have received clarity on. So I feel better having the discussion. I don't understand why everything has to be an argument.
Well, it's not an argument. I'm just asking, why are we continuing to do this?
We just told you.
Excuse me.
But it doesn't make any sense.
I'm gonna call decorum on this again, yeah.
We got two people over here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go down to the end.
Yeah, I think
Way back, yes,
please,
thank you.
please.
Commissioner Rollins?
No, I was just.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Commissioner Skolitsky.
Now I did notice in the survey that there were some information that was a little bit inconsistent and a little bit contradictory. There was overall like everybody was happy, thumbs up. Communication obviously was an issue. It seemed like interdepartment was okay. Everybody was happy there. It was cross-department communication was the really resounding issue. What are the channels that are primarily used for cross-department communication?
Typically, things shared at our senior management team or leadership team meetings. So that funnels out through those channels typically. So senior management team then works with everyone within their management group to put out a communication, or if it's shared at a leadership level meeting, that is then shared out through the organization that way.
So the leaders will meet and then it's up to the leaders to disseminate the information to their teams from there.
And so thus, when we had looked at improving cross-department communication, one of the things that we'd identified in helping individuals do this was the use of AI for cohesive note-taking. So then that way it can be shared across the organization that way.
I do absolutely love that idea to help fill in some of those gaps. I'm also interested in if there is support and interest from the staff to do some team building within the department so that that way we could have a little bit more just camaraderie. I mean, we're all part of the same team trying to achieve the same goals at the end of the day. You know, if we're not like, you know, public safety did this and Parks and Rec did this, and well, they didn't send this email, and I don't think she read that. You know, if we had some more personal relationships within the departments, then I feel like some of this, the biasness could be laid to rest. That's all I have.
Vice Mayor Acker.
I like, I appreciate that we're having this conversation. Let's just put it that way. We need closure. And I think that's, you know, I mentioned this to Manager Dissents. When Epic MRI, you know, made the presentation, it was the last time we had a presentation. Since that presentation with them, we had not discussed, you know, talked about it. Okay, we start on it. This is an occasion right after the presentation, Manager Dissents indicated some of his takeaway. I do think that having this conversation provides this whole piece, some closure. He's taking, you know, he's gone to the units and had conversations with them. And now he's telling, you know, he's providing us with that with the results of that conversation, albeit he had already preempted this conversation by mentioning some of it when he was presenting the, you know, goals, right? Okay. I appreciate that. I think that's part of the tension. Without that initial presentation, we wouldn't hear some of the things that you're talking about right now that you're, you know, working on. I appreciate this. It is important to come back to say, this is what I'm looking at. This is what we're going to implement. Let's have some closure if we have additional questions. And I think that's what we're trying to do now. I appreciate the fact that you talked about cross-departmental communication, hence my comment about horizontal communication, which I have already said to you. We talked about in our conversation with the mayor, we talked about mechanisms for future conversations. How often you communicate, you know, with the larger group. I understand having a conversation with the people who report to you directly, but there's also another circle that you may not be reading. And that's, you know, part of the tension that I was, you know, that at least I felt I was hearing was coming from that particular space, that there's that gap, you know, that you needed to negotiate. The other thing that we talked about was the fact that as a result of all the tension swirling around, that you needed to rebuild trust. Okay, so, you know, have a conversation. What are you going to do to rebuild trust? You talked about team building. We talked about that. So is the team building therefore going to just simply be team building with the people that report to you directly, or would that team building include, you know, the larger unit, all right? It might mean identifying particular sections and having some team building with them at some certain point, and then working with another section, as opposed to just the team building within, you know, the leadership groups, and then and then each unit having team building, you know, with its staff. But that's not going to resolve the larger problem of rebuilding trust within the entire unit. So I do think that it is important that we have this conversation. It is the final conversation, and I hope that it puts, you know, it resolves it. But we do need closure. And I can promise you that a few weeks ago, somebody asked me, what happened to that survey? So here we are, we're doing it. We did it publicly. Now it is in the public space. We're closing it. And I hope that you would be okay with this, you're okay with this conversation and that we're gonna have this closure. So I thank you for being here and for attending to this.
Other questions from members of the commission? Not seeing any. Again, I think my final takeaway is just that communication is key. So just as we're working through different strategies and proposals within the commission, we keep that in mind and how we relay that to staff and how we affect policy that supports the organization as a whole. Those are my key takeaways there. As always, thank you for the good conversation this evening, everybody. It was a later one, not our latest ever, but if there's no final comments, then there's no business remaining before the commission, and we stand adjourned at 10:21.
Thank you. Ooh, I'm teaching tomorrow.
You want those for your fridge?
No,
No?
no.
You want those for your
Gift
fridge?
cards.
No?
Gifts from your friend, you can.
You can make him in a trading card.